All right, we should be live. Hopefully everything is broadcasting just right. We should be good in both vertical and horizontal mode, so that's good. Okay, I think that both of these are running, which means, and that's up, I think we're all set. So, new topic today. Hopefully it's readable, readable, if you will. Hopefully the audio's clear, and the background's good, clear, visible, in all of these lovely ways. Oh, I also need to open up my video Ninja link. There we go. All right, now we should be all set. Howdy, howdy. Hope everybody's having a great day. A little bit late live today. I was trying to figure out something, trying to get something to work earlier, but it was not cooperating. So, you know, we do the best with what we have. Reload. There we go. No, don't use my camera. Don't care about my camera being used. I need you to use my microphone. There we go. Okay, we're all set. I debated Bohr, yeah, a long time ago. I called him out for being dishonest in a video and I haven't talked to him since. So, you know, probably not going to talk about that. So, I hope everybody's having a good day. Oh, I have to pop out some chats. Here's one chat. Here's a second chat, so that horizontal and vertical can fight each other, as is tradition. He mentions me a lot. I'm not surprised that he mentions me a lot. I don't think about him a lot. It's just the way it is, right? Horizontal live is stance independently is intersubjectively better than the vertical live. Yeah, that might very well be true. All right, let's bring on a guest. Oh, actually, there is one thing I want to add that I have to take care of really quick. Can you hear me all right, Sarah?
Yes.
Can you give me just one moment, please?
Sure.
I need to add a display capture. Sorry, I just want to make you visible to everybody.
Well, just my picture or my face right now? Like a live video?
Actually, I'm not going to do that. No, you're fine. It was just your picture.
Okay.
So Sarah, do you think that the Earth is young?
Well, I don't believe that, but I do have some questions.
About what?
If you, like, I believe in science, like, but I grew up in like a Baptist church, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm no longer a religious person, but if you don't mind, like I just still have questions because I just want to better understand things. So if I do get into an argument in the future, you know, or a debate about it, like, how does science know that the Earth is that old? You know, like, what discoveries that they make, you know, trying to figure this out, you know, if you don't mind.
So I mean, look, so in science we don't talk about certainty. What we talk about is lots and lots of evidence, right? So as far as like absolute 100% certainty, like we don't know anything, right? Like we have evidence and then we believe what that evidence indicates. However, the evidence that we have is things like radiometric dating. So radiometric dating is not just carbon dating. It uses a slew of other methods. But the key relationship that's being used to determine the age of things is that radioactive things decay at the same rate all the time. They always decay at the same rate. They always have, they always will. And so, for example, uranium, so you know what uranium is. Uranium
Yes.
decays, if you have a big lump of uranium-238, which is a type of uranium, and you waited 4.5 billion years, half of it would be not uranium anymore. It would be something else. It would eventually become lead. And this is something that we can measure. Now, we can't wait 4.5 billion years, but what we can do is we can look at the like if you have a big chunk of uranium, we can look at how much it's radioactively decaying. You take a Geiger counter, you know, the thing that like clicks, you know, when you put it next to something radioactive. And so you can measure how quickly it decays, and you can use that to establish how long it would take for half of it to decay. And from there, then you just go look at things that should have had a whole bunch of uranium in them, and then you look at how much uranium they have in them. And the end conclusion that you come to is that the Earth is like enormously old. Like on the order of 4.5 billion years old or so. The universe, of course, is much older, but that is the most surefire way that we can determine the age of the Earth. And in fact, in the 1950s and 60s was when this was first being done. This is how we determined the age of the Earth accurately for the first time.
Okay.
So, I mean, like, there are other ways, of course. You can look at, like, ice cores. You can look at civilizational records. You can look at other things. But if you want to know that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, the way to do that is with radiometric dating.
Okay. Yeah,
And,
that's
like,
a lot of information.
Yeah, sorry about that, but there's a lot to learn.
No, it's okay. I asked.
Yeah, sure. Anything else, Sarah, or should I let you go?
No, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to better understand that whole side of it, I guess.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Sarah. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Now, keep in mind, it does say opposition join if you disagree. So I'd like to not just be explaining to a lot of people. I'd rather talk to people who disagree, but, you know, I'm always happy to explain. All right, we have another guest. This person's name is Soldier Christ. What are the odds that they are that they're opposition? Let's give them a sec. All right, it looks like he's not coming up. Maybe he's Jesuit. Good point. Good point. Unskippable ad? I don't choose that. I just look, it just is the way it is. Larry, thank you for the $10. I appreciate you. I don't know why why those don't show up, but thank you. Zoidu, how's it going?
Hello.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
Glad to hear it. So, Zoidu, do you think the Earth is 6,000 years old?
I don't think it's 6,000 years old.
Do you think that it is less than 1 billion years old?
Maybe.
Why?
I think, I'm not sure, but it's just my intuition that I think it's billion, it's not billion years.
There's some serious background noise and your audio is really, really low. Can you say that again?
Oh, I was saying, my intuition says that it cannot be billion years old.
So, do you happen to be on the street?
Oh, I am in the street, yeah, right now.
Okay, there's a lot of background noise. You can feel free to rejoin when the background noise is less, but like I'm hearing buses go by. Like it's crazy out there. Madam, how's it going?
Yo, what's up, bro?
Not a whole lot. Do you think the Earth is young?
Yeah, it's hella young, bro.
How young? All right, he was clearly a troll. So we have $10 from Larry Beck. I don't know why the thing didn't pick that up, but thank you so much for the super chat, Larry. And then we also have 5 Dr. Blitz memberships from Dylan on the vertical stream. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, let's talk to Ewan? Owen? How do I say your name?
Owen.
Owen. There you go. It's Irish, isn't it? Yeah. So, Owen, do you think that the Earth is young?
Did you get your doctorate in America?
I did.
You did, really?
Yeah.
Because your Patreon says you got it in a Central European university.
No, I got it in the US. Mua, how's it going?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to ask, who's your god?
I don't believe in a god. Do you think that the Earth is young?
No.
Okay, well, it says join if you disagree. King, how's it going? Oh, where'd he go?
Can you hear me?
King, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Do you think the Earth is young?
I know I'm never going to be able to come on here again, but I just wanted to say I'm a big fan, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
You'll never be welcome back again. By the way, no, I absolutely did get my my doctorate in the US. I moved to Europe for a few years to work afterwards. But no, I got my doctorate in the US. I got it on the West Coast. But it's like, and that's not like something I'm like ashamed of or anything. It's just that it was weird that he was like looking up my details. So I'm not going to tolerate doxers. Siege, how's it going?
I think you knew what color underwear you were wearing.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. So do you think that the Earth is young?
Personally, I don't know. Like, what do you mean by young?
Less than, say, 1 million years old.
I mean, I haven't looked into it, so like, unless I had substantial evidence that proved me wrong, so I guess I would disagree. But like, I was curious on what you thought started the Big Bang.
Oh, I don't know.
Interesting.
I mean,
is that the Big Bang?
I can speculate. Yeah, this is the Big Bang
speculate?
behind. Yeah,
Okay,
I can
I'm
absolutely
just jealous
speculate,
in
but
that, though.
I just don't think that we have enough evidence to know for certain.
For sure. Cool. Well, there's nothing really to, I guess, talk about, to be honest with you, because I don't really know much about the Earth's age to argue about with you, so.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here, Siege Flapper. Take care.
Yeah, bro. Have a blessed day. You too, man.
Oh, oops, I cut him off early. So we got a 1045 TRY from Netlandin. I'm going to butcher that name. I'm sorry. 1045 TRY. I don't actually know what that that's Turkish lira. That's about a quarter. So thank you for the quarter, Nay. I'll just call you Nay. All right, let's talk to Muwa Ideen again. I'm waiting for the real discussion too. Muwa Ideen, how's it going? Welcome back.
Yeah, so do you just kick people if they don't give you the answer you want?
Well, if they don't disagree that Earth isn't 6,000 years old, then I'm not going to talk to them because that's what the prompt says. If you want to talk about the prompt, that's fine. If you disagree with the prompt, if you think that the Earth is 6,000 years old or something like that, then I'm happy to talk to you.
Well, can I ask
Otherwise, please respect the live stream.
I think I'm respecting the live stream, but you're not respecting the audience. You're just kicking people. What's the purpose of your question if you think the world is young or not? Why are you
Because
asking?
I'm trying to establish if you disagree with me.
Okay, but why?
Because that's the purpose of the live stream. To foster discussion between those who disagree. Patrick, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. You doing well?
I'm doing all right. Do you think the Earth is young?
I'm here for the debate if you're up for it.
Do you think that the Earth is young?
Personally, no,
Personally.
I do not.
Okay.
I do think that there is a
It says join if you disagree. Not join if you want to argue for the other side. Not join if you want to talk about something else. Join if you disagree. Clanker, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Do you think that the Earth is young?
I do. It doesn't look young, though. Here's...
Sure.
You ready for the position? Okay,
yeah, sure.
So,
go ahead.
Absolutely, Earth, universe looks 14 billion years old. That's how light works, right? If you look at... biblically, if you look at God's first miracle, Jesus's first miracle, water into wine. If you were to take that wine to the lab, you would expect to see, things in wine that are only accessible by aged processes, right? So, and I don't think that was on accident. And then if you look towards his death, after his death, you've got Thomas who says, hey, let me put my hand in your side, right? If God had created the universe as a 7,000-year-old, entity, at some point we would be forced to accept his existence, right? So basically it would look like it. It doesn't look like it. And, I think anybody that says it looks like it is, you're seeing the big rock to push uphill. But it basically means, hey, look, God had to engineer an out for people to not believe in him, because I don't think it's his, job to make you believe in an entity and in a God, right? So basically, if he created the universe to look like it was 7,000 years old, there's a lot more explaining. You have to accept a deity. I don't care what deity it is. You have to accept one.
So I guess that there's kind of two directions that we can go here. One, perhaps the first direction is, who cares? So, suppose for a moment that it was the case that God engineered a world so that it looked like it was 7,000 years old, and then people recognized, oh, okay, that means that there is something that created our world. Why would that be a problem?
Because then you have to. There's no escape for atheism. There's no way to explain
Does God want people to be atheists?
Existence. I think God wants you to have free will.
You can have free will and have correct information. Those are not mutually contradictory.
Yeah, but you can have a system that is set up that necessitates you believe in a deity, and I don't think that was his style. I don't know. I will know.
Look, I mean, if God didn't want people to believe in him without evidence, then why would he give the Bible? Why would he send Jesus? Because those are all pieces of evidence, right?
They're pieces of evidence, but they are also easily explained away, right? So it's you have the choice to not believe that Jesus was God, right? Easily.
And
right?
you could have the choice to not
right?
believe that the Earth is 7,000 years old, even if the evidence says otherwise, right?
That's why I love your videos. That's why I just want to join in, just offer an alternate position. But yes, you can, but that is ignoring a lot of evidence, right?
Well, presumably, as somebody who's Christian, you would say that people who think that Jesus didn't rise from the dead are ignoring a lot of evidence, right?
I would not say that because, I would say, but not the type of evidence that we are talking about. We are talking about.
You mean good evidence?
You can look. No, I'm talking about evidence that you can look at today, right? You can look at redshift. You can look at a lot of things and say, nope, universe looked 14 billion years old. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, it is, hey, no, I can look outside and know it's not raining. I can, that's different type of evidence than, hey, who do you say that I am? That type of evidence, right?
So here's a question then. It sounds like what you're saying is that God intentionally deceived us.
Nope, I'm saying that God provided an out to explain away his existence. And but he came in and told you who he was, and he told you what he did, and then you can believe in him.
That only happened 5,000 years after the fact, right? I mean, according to what you're saying, it sounds like 7,000 years ago, God made the universe in such a way that would be intentionally deceptive to anybody who tried to study it.
I would say that you can choose to believe that he did what he did was he created the universe. He didn't say how he created it, and he didn't say what it was going to look like, and he didn't say how old it was going to look like either.
Well, right, but if the intent is to provide evidence so that the universe looks a way that it isn't, it sounds like deception. For example, if let's say that I was trying to sell you a car, right? And I went in and I manually changed the odometer so that it looked like it had fewer miles on it than it actually did. Would that be deception?
That would be deception, yes.
So God made the universe look older than it actually was. How is that not deception? It's the same thing.
Because he's not trying to sell us a car.
He's trying to sell us a belief system.
He is trying to explain what I believe is the universe as it exists, which is a physical entity that was created. And so he is, but in a way that's not going to force you to believe in him, which is tricky, I admit. And yeah, I know that sounds, silly. But I think that
you have an issue with God providing like obvious evidence that he exists? Is that the thing that you think that he wouldn't do?
True. Yeah.
So then what about Paul? He literally appeared in a vision to Paul. What about like the Israelites? What about Moses? What what about Jacob? Like he just showed up in front of Jacob. Jacob saw his face.
Yeah, and that's God's prerogative.
You didn't have a problem with it then.
Right. That's God's prerogative because he's God and he can do whatever he wants. And so,
but it's just not consistent.
I think that to argue that is arguing that you have some sort of knowledge of God's desires, and I don't think that's probably a defendable position.
Right, but look, the point is you're saying, well, God doesn't want to just give us definitive evidence, because then you wouldn't have free will in whether or not you believe in him. But God literally did that to people in the Bible. So it
for
seems
specific
like
purposes in specific times in history.
Well, sure, but so he doesn't have an issue providing evidence, right? So it just seems like the contention.
In those circumstances and those periods of time. And again,
right. And so it seems like there's not some principled opposition to providing evidence. And by the way, this is just like a kind of like a whole subsection of the debate that providing information never takes away free will, right? Like that's never something that ever takes away free will from anybody.
If I were to, in front of you, alter the odometer in a car and then tell you that it is a new car, I think that takes away your free will to believe that it's a
free will isn't about beliefs.
I think it is.
Free will is about what you do, what your will is. I mean, like, in fact, I would argue that not having complete information reduces your free will, right? Because you don't have the choice to believe all of the options given all of the information. For example, suppose for a moment that you were in a grocery store and you were trying to buy some oatmeal, and you were walking down the aisle. There's oatmeal on the left, oatmeal on the right. There's only one brand of oatmeal on the left, and the oatmeal on the right is covered. It's covered by like a canvas. And so you walk into the grocery store. You're like, okay, well, I guess the only choice I have is to buy the oatmeal that I know about, the oatmeal that I can see. However, if somebody came along and just took away the canvas and showed 100 different kinds of oatmeals on the right-hand side, now you have more choices. Your will is now genuinely free because you have more information about what your options are. It seems like giving good and accurate information never takes away free will. It increases free will.
When you're talking about will as far as decision making, I would say yes, but I don't think that is what we're talking about. I think the will to believe in something, I think a belief system is a free choice. And I mean, you obviously have a choice, right? So you believe that the Earth spontaneously exists, which I totally respect, but it's still a belief system because we aren't there. And so everyone, I think free will is a belief system, and I think all of us to some degree have a belief system. We have so we all try and organize what our belief is around the world and how it existed, and what our purpose is in it. But
what's the difference between now, where all of the evidence says that the Earth is 14 billion years old, and the alternative world where all of the evidence says the Earth is 7,000 years old? The only difference is that in one case, if you look at the evidence, you find that God did not create the Earth 7,000 years ago. And in the other case, if you look at the evidence, you find that God did create the Earth 7,000 years ago. It seems like in both cases, the amount of will you have is the same.
Let me do it this way. Okay, so if you were to create, your job is to be God, right? Assuming there was a God, right?
Yep.
You're going to create de novo a train and everything around it, and you're going to press play and set it into motion. Okay.
Yep.
You might put tracks before and after the train, maybe people in the train, station that the train came from, something in the background, yada yada yada, right? So and there might be smoke coming out of the train, and you're going to press play.
Mm-hmm.
It was the smoke in that in the air ever in the firebox for the train? No, right? So but if you create a train, don't put any smoke above it and don't put any track behind it, and don't then it obviously looks created, right? It obviously looks that.
Yeah, and what's wrong with that?
Well,
I mean, right now, like, so if you create the train with the smoke, if you create the train with the smoke and with the tracks, then it obviously looks not created, or at least it looks like it's older, right?
Right, but you're trying to create a convincing image of what things would look like.
Why? Why are you trying to convince people that it's not the way that it is?
You're not trying to convince them that. You're trying to give them an out to believe that it was there before.
No, you're providing evidence of something that's not true.
You're providing evidence. There's no evidence. You created it. It's your creation, right?
Well,
and you can make it look however you want.
Okay, let me give another analogy, just so then I can line this up perfectly. So suppose for a moment that I'm a forger, right? I sell fake antique things, and I want my potential victims to believe that the thing I'm selling them is really old. So what do? Well, I add a little varnish so that, or I add a little, not varnish, patina. I add some fake patina so that it looks like the copper's rusted. I smudge some of the intricate artwork so that it looks like it's been, buried for a long time. I add some cracks so that it looks like it's been damaged over the thousands of years that it existed. And then I go up to my pawn shop, if you will, and say, hey, look, I have this artifact, this ancient Roman artifact. And I hand it to them, and they say, well, it has a patina, which is what you would expect from an ancient Roman artifact. It has the cracks in the places that you would expect the cracks to be for an ancient Roman artifact. It has the smudge details in the places where you expect the smudge details to be for an ancient Roman artifact. All of the evidence is there for an ancient Roman artifact. I'll buy it. So the pawn shop did their due diligence. They looked for all of the signs. They looked for the evidence, and they came to the conclusion that you wanted them to come to, that the Earth or that the artifact was old. Doesn't mean you weren't lying.
Right, and you're the forger in this case, because
God's the forger in this case.
Well, no, because you framed the Earth really isn't, it isn't 13 billion years old, right? The universe is not 13 billion years old, but we've made it look that way so that if you would like to buy something that's not true, that's fine.
Yeah, but the person who's doing the buying is being deceived by the evidence that was placed there on purpose with the intent to deceive, right?
But it is only, it's allowing you to explain it away. It's not trying to sell you something that's not true.
Then why is there evidence that points to something that points to it being not true? Like, for example, the redshift. If the Earth was actually 7,000 years old, and that redshift wasn't forged, then the redshift wouldn't be there, right?
But but you were using the word forged. It was
created. It was placed. Right. Just like how I created this fake artifact with the cracks, with the smudging, with the patina. I created it that way. I created it so it looked old.
No, but here's the difference in your analogy is that you would try and sell the plate as new, even though it looks old. So you have created
I'm presenting it to the pawn shop. I'm saying, look, this thing is old. All of the evidence is there. It's old.
So yes, but in this analogy that you're using, you're trying to pass it off as old, correct?
Yeah, that was
it's not, right? Right. So,
yeah.
In hopes that they would believe that it's old.
Yeah, what would be the purpose of putting the evidence there otherwise?
Well, because it's just the opposite, which is
so if you didn't want people to believe it was old, why would you put evidence that it's old?
Because I don't want people to believe it's old.
Then why put evidence that it's old?
Because I want you to be able to say God isn't real.
Look, if you don't want people to think that it's old, then you wouldn't put evidence that it's old. That seems pretty obvious.
No, if you want people to believe,
if you want people to be confused and possibly think it's old, then maybe you would put evidence.
Well, here, if you don't want people
seems like a god of confusion.
No, it's a God that doesn't want you to believe in him because of physical evidence, and so it's sort of a.
So God is presenting contradictory evidence. It sounds so. Maybe he's not a god of deception, but he is definitely a god of confusion. He presents evidence in the Bible in the form of the Bible in one sense for a young Earth, and then in the form of cosmology for an old Earth. What is somebody supposed to do with that?
Because if God wanted you to believe in him, because that's that he could appear to you right now, right? But that's not what God wants. God wants your faith.
Right. He wants me to be confused. He wants me to not know. He wants me to be confused and torn about which way the evidence leads.
No, I think that is placing in this whole narrative an assumption of God's motives that are not defensible based on biblical truth or anything that we know.
Let me use another analogy. Let's say that I'm a serial killer, right? I go and I unalive someone, right? And with the goal, actually, I won't tell you what the goal is. So I leave some evidence that it was me, and then I also leave some evidence that it was someone else. I plant some fake fingerprints. I plant someone else's blood. Would you say that I'm trying to confuse police about who actually did it?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so if God plants some evidence that it's old, redshift, radiometric dating, and plants some evidence that it's young, the Bible, Jesus is coming, and so on, wouldn't it therefore follow that God is trying to confuse the people?
No, because one of those evidence requires a belief system. One of them does not.
Both of them require beliefs. On the one hand, the police believe that you did it. On the other hand, the police believe that you didn't do it.
One of the evidence of the Bible, Christ's appearance, things like that requires faith. The other one
that's just historical evidence. It's not faith. It's just a different kind of evidence.
No, historical evidence. If you like, Christ, was alive, right? So we can all agree that. Right?
Yep, sure.
Historical evidence is, was he who he said he was?
Well, did he do faith. What he did? Did he do what he claimed he did? Yeah. No, but but that requires that's a type of historical evidence.
Faith.
There are historical texts supporting that claim.
Yeah.
That's a type of historical evidence. Now, whether it's compelling historical evidence is a different story, but that's a type of historical evidence. So God left us with historical evidence that he exists, and then he left us with cosmological evidence that he doesn't exist. And that just sounds like he's trying to confuse us.
No, well, again, that's assuming that you know what he was trying to do, right? And in my examples, Thomas wanted to put his hand in the side of Christ, right? To see if that was who he said was that you really, whereas blessed are those who have not seen but believe. And so I think that without a way to explain away his existence via cosmology and cosmology and explaining it back to a Big Bang, or whatever you believe, the spontaneous existence, whatever it is, then you are forced to believe in a deity, and then it's just whoever's the most compelling. And I don't think that's in my opinion of what God's character would want, in sort of my putting my human brain overlaid on whatever God's desire was. And again, I can't explain. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, and I'm not, claiming to have knowledge. I'm just providing a way that you can make a choice, and I think that is how he did it.
The police can make a choice.
So the police can make a choice as to whether or not who is guilty of this crime, right?
In the same way that you and I can make a choice as to whether or not who is guilty of creating the universe, or what is guilty of creating the universe, if you will.
Connotations aside, the belief system that you have on how the universe came to existence can either be, intelligent creator or spontaneous existence.
Right, and it seems like God threw in some extra evidence to try to confuse people.
Well, no, I think if he had wanted to force you into believing his way, he would make the universe look 7,000 years old, say it's 7,000 years old, and then go with that, right?
So look,
otherwise you can't be an atheist unless you can explain it away.
That's fine.
Can't be an atheist.
That's fine. You don't have
to be able to.
So even if you can't be an atheist, that doesn't mean you have to be a Christian. First of all, second of all, look. If the claim is that God, if it were the case that God did not want people to be atheists, then he would not have provided evidence that convinces people to be atheists.
Why?
If I don't know how to explain this except via another analogy. If I wanted people to believe that I loved my wife, I wouldn't call her names in public.
If he didn't want you to be able to believe that you didn't like your wife, let's see. If we'll do a different damn, I think it's negative. If he wanted you to be able to believe in a world devoid of an intelligent creator,
then he would provide evidence that would point to that. Yeah,
he wouldn't have made a universe that could be where he could be explained away.
Right. So he wanted people to believe that, right?
He wanted you to be able to believe that, but he also wanted you to be able to
why does he want people to be able to believe that?
Because you can make a choice. It's a faith question. Like, do you think he is who he says he is, or do you think that God doesn't exist? That's an option.
Well, look. So here the important question is, do you think, say you're presented with overwhelming evidence that XYZ is true, do you have a choice in believing that XYZ is true?
It depends on if you think that, like, so X, Y, and Z are, in this case, the Earth looks 14 billion years old. It does look like it's 14 billion years old.
Well, no. So I'm asking just generically, not about the Earth being 14 billion years old, or it's not. It's 4.5 billion years old. The universe being 13 billion years.
I'm trying to keep from being dragged into your trap, which is
too bad. Fall into the trap.
Okay, here we go. Look, yes. All right. So
look,
X, Y,
given compelling evidence that XYZ is true, do you have a choice in not believing that XYZ is true?
No. So if XYZ looks true, then you should believe that XYZ is true.
Right. And so does our universe look 14 billion years old?
Yes.
Okay, so then should you believe that the universe is 14 billion years old?
If it devoid of any other input, yes.
Okay.
Devoid of any sort of.
If the evidence is compelling, which I don't think anybody would. Well, I mean, I'm sure I'll get some guests on who say that the evidence isn't compelling later. But you and I both agree that the evidence is very compelling, that the Earth is, or that the universe is indeed quite old. Like all of the cosmological signs indicate that, right?
I would say it looks very old because I will concede that.
Like every single piece of evidence that we have says that it is, right? Every single piece. Every single piece of scientific data that we have says that it's very, very old.
Says that
So
yes,
the question
says that
is,
it looks very, very old.
Is do you then have free will to then say, no, it's not old? Is that something that you does that make sense? Then that means that the evidence wasn't compelling.
Okay, no.
That's what it means to be compelling.
Nope. Here's the deal: devoid of any other input, devoid of a creator that is not bound by the laws of physics that he wrote.
Just as a question, what do you think compelling means?
In the absence of any other evidence,
compelling means it compels you to believe it.
Right, of course.
It forces you to believe it. That's what compelling evidence is.
No.
That's what compelling means.
Forces. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's what the word means.
No, it doesn't.
Compel and compulsion share a common root.
Yeah, but force is not. So basically,
it is compulsory to believe it if it's compelling.
If you believe in a deity that could create things de novo however he wants them to look, right, then you have the choice to believe that he made something look older than it actually was, and his first miracle was
I'm just gonna do something really quick. So there are roughly 3 definitions for compelling. The first isn't the appropriate one for evidence. It's just evoking interest, attention, or admiration. We're not talking about that the evidence is admirable. We're talking about another definition. So the other 2 definitions are not able to be refuted, inspiring conviction, and then the third definition is not able to be resisted, overwhelming. So if it's compelling, then it's not able to be refuted or it's not able to be resisted. Okay. That's what compelling means.
Devoid. Okay. Stop, please.
That's what the word means.
Right. The evidence, if you were just to take it to court, in the absence, say Christ never existed, never said he was anything, and you were just got a telescope, that's all you got, right? Yes, it's compelling. If you've got a system of belief that says that there is a God, a creator, that could create things however he wants them to look, well, now you have to deal with it. And so then it no longer becomes compelling. It becomes an alternate belief system, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so you would say that the evidence that we have that the Earth is 14 billion years old-ish is not compelling?
I would say that it is physically accurate. If you were to just take physics, if you have no concept of a deity or creation, then yes, it is compelling. But I do have a belief system that involves a creator and someone that can interact with people and wants to interact with people. So that's the difference, and that's where we
so God did not provide compelling evidence that the universe is 14 billion years old?
God allowed physical evidence that the Earth is older than it actually is.
You mean he created physical evidence that the Earth is older than it actually is? He didn't just allow it to happen, he created it that way.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
so God created evidence that, so God created evidence that X, I'm just gonna formalize this. Let's just formalize this. Okay.
And I got 2 minutes left. I gotta get back to work. But
okay, then I won't formalize it. I mean, the point is that it seems like, so God did something that God created something in a way that is not truthful, right? Meaning,
nope. He created something that allows you to believe he created it one way or another way.
Okay, so
there are two ways. There are two ways to create the universe. Right. One that it looks 7,000 years old, and one that it looks 14 billion years old.
So we agree it looks 14 billion years old. So how do you know it's 7,000 years old and not a week old?
I believe it's 7,000 years old because.
Is there any reason to believe it's 7,000 years old rather than a week old?
Because it says so in the Bible.
Right, but if it was a week old, it would still say that it would still say that it was 7,000 years old in the Bible.
Right, but I was here a week ago.
Well, that's what your memories say, but your memories could have been created a week ago.
But no one said that my memories were created, and that's not in the Bible.
Okay, so this is just, so despite all of the evidence to the contrary, and despite the lack of symmetry breakers between this and last Thursdayism, if it says it in the Bible, you believe it's true, regardless of any other piece of information?
Yes.
Oh. That's worrying, right? Because it says a lot of things in the Bible that I don't think you should believe, let alone the age of the earth. Like, by the way, it doesn't say the earth is 7,000 years old in the Bible. That's like an inference. But putting that aside,
correct.
Like, putting that aside, it also says that, like, Hebrews can own slaves. So, but we shouldn't, but you don't believe that, right?
That was something that was descriptive rather than prescriptive. In other words, it's something
to say
that
you
was
may.
happening.
That sounds like
something
it's
that was
permissive.
It's something that was happening. It was not something that was an ideal or recommended.
What was this? Was this not a law?
This Old Testament times, there were all sorts of crazy, messed up things that were happening. I think my opinion on this, and I got to get back to work. I wish.
No, totally reasonable. Totally reasonable.
Yeah, and I appreciate you so much for hashing this out. This is, but there was my opinion of how biblically things are laid out was God made the Jewish people his people. In sort of like, oh my gosh, hi Jews, I'm really sorry. I'm going to demonstrate why a works-based religion doesn't work because human nature, and we're going to do this over and over and over again, and then I'm going to send a savior. And so that is my opinion on why Old Testament times really jacked up, not according to God's plan because of original sin, and here we are. But I appreciate you. You keep doing the videos. I really like you, and I hope one day you'll agree with me. But it's okay if you don't. That's not my responsibility. But I appreciate you giving me the platform.
All right, Ken, thanks for being here. Now, before I bring on the next guest, who will be coming in from YouTube, just as a quick reminder, you guys, there's hundreds of you on both YouTube and on TikTok. Make sure to subscribe if you're on YouTube. Make sure to follow along if you're on TikTok. Follow. Like the live stream, whether you're watching horizontally, vertically, or on TikTok. Leave comments, all of these lovely things. And if you want to support me, there's various ways in the descriptions, in my link tree on my bio. There's super chats. Super chats will pop up somewhere around here. So there are various ways to support me if you'd like to. All right, let's move on. Oh, actually, I have some super chats to read, I believe. So yeah, let's read some super chats really quick. So from Gamer Master Flash with the $10, it only makes sense if God is tricking you. That's roughly my view. From Greggy G, we have welcome to one, which I think means that they are now a member. So welcome. From Mostly Gizzards with the $5, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I hope your day's going okay. But they say, by this argument, Santa Claus is real, even though there's compelling evidence otherwise. That's unfortunately the reality of it, yeah. And then $5 from Fears Interaction. Thank you so much. Been missing live streams for less than a week, and I'm amazed by the wild talking points. Thanks, Blitz, for keeping us abreast of Trust Me Bronomics. True. All right, let's bring up our next guest. So we have a guest from YouTube who doesn't have a name. Can you hear me all right? Actually, let me refresh because maybe it's just not working on my end. Add to scene 2. Yeah, for some reason they're not popping up. I don't understand why, but maybe they have the app minimized. All right, let us bring on a guest from TikTok then. All right, let's talk to Silly Goose. Silly Goose, how's it going?
It's going good. So here's the whole, I think, and the theory.
Silly Goose, before we start, just a quick question.
Yeah.
How old do you think the Earth is?
So I think it is like 6,000 years old.
Okay, great. Go ahead. Yeah. Fire away.
So here's a hole in the theory, and it comes to the understanding of time. Mm-hmm. So if I place you on Earth, and I place you in a black hole singularity, mm-hmm. How old is Earth? But on both locations.
So there is no proper time. At least there's no well-defined proper time inside a black hole. You probably mean by the event horizon, right?
I think you don't understand the how time.
I do. You mean by the event horizon of a black hole, right?
Right.
Yeah, so
or,
by the event horizon of a black hole, the Earth would be like a fraction of a second old.
Right. So, so say there's a creator that transcends time, so then how old do you think that element is to that creator?
Fortunately, we have a pretty good way of just defining what we mean. When we say that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, what we mean is that the Earth went around the sun 4.5 billion times.
Right.
Do you think that happened, or do you think that it only went around the sun 7,000 times, or 6,000 times, or whatever?
I think you're just not explaining it in the terms of time.
So how many times do you think the Earth went around the sun?
Your diagram is a linear, slow march of time based off of like rotations and things like that. But that's
how many times do you think the Earth went around the sun?
Defined, is it?
Can you answer the question, please?
Created.
Can you stop dodging the question, please?
Well, that's what I don't agree with your definition of time.
Well, look, so that's why I'm just asking a separate question. Do you think the Earth went around the sun 6,000 times or around 4.5 billion times?
Maybe it did. I don't
Which
know.
one?
I wasn't there.
Which one?
That it's rotated probably billions of times.
Okay. Then I guess we're in agreement, right?
No, because we don't agree on the definition of time.
Okay, well, what do you think time is?
It's some linear thing. The measurement of time.
I never made the claim that it's linear.
Where do you get that definition from?
The definition of what a year is? We came up with that definition.
And time, like, I mean, you're just doesn't want to look at. I mean,
that's just what the word year means, right?
Do you not believe in science because it's been wrong? Is that the issue?
A year. What a year means is the amount of
disproven. Is that
so? Do you know what a year is? What's a year? What do you think a year is?
Relativity of time. You don't believe in it.
What do you think a year is?
I'm not, because it's been wrong. Is that
what do you think a year is?
Is that what the issue is? Science has been wrong.
I'm sorry.
So it's hard to believe it.
I just need to know what you think a year is.
What is a year? You tell me.
It's the amount of time it takes the Earth to go around the sun.
Yeah, and that's what defines all of time.
No, that's what defines a year.
You can't warp time. You can't transcend time.
No, that's what defines a year.
Yeah, time's the same.
We're talking about what a year is
on Earth.
We're talking about what a year is.
Right, because you're trying to transcend time.
No, I'm just trying to talk about what a year is. A year is, and specifically, a year is the amount of time it takes for the Earth to go around the sun from the Earth's reference frame. That's what a year is.
Has science ever been wrong?
Sure.
Yeah. So you discard all of science?
No, I'm a scientist, actually.
Right, because it's like perfecting arguments and observation and becoming with a broader understanding. Do you think right now you're actually trying to more broadly understand the dimension of time?
I can assure you I understand time better than you do.
And really how that works.
It's called relativity.
Right. And how do you
I can assure you I understand it better than you do.
Okay. Well, you can be as arrogant as you want.
Well, no, it's not an arrogance thing. It's like I have a PhD in physics, so this is my area of expertise.
Oh,
I imagine you don't.
So no, I have 3 master's degrees in other areas of science.
Are any of them physics?
No.
Okay, so I'm sure you have much more expertise than me in whatever your masters are in. I know more about physics than you do. I know more about time than you do. I know more about
so then why does your element not have a diagram knowing that time is relative and that we actually have,
because this is using a particular reference frame. This is using the cosmological reference frame in particular.
Yeah, so it's limited.
It's a picture.
It's limited in its understanding. It's ignorant.
Yeah. So interestingly enough,
it's not holistic, and
interestingly enough, if you want it to be the case that from God's perspective it's only been 6,000 years, then you'd be off by a factor of 2 million, which means that God would have to exist in the universe and just be moving very close to the speed of light. Is that your view?
Time.
I don't think time had a creator.
Yeah, and that's what we differ.
Well,
So
right,
you
but that
just
seems irrelevant with
yeah.
regards to the point of
So
how
you
old
think
the
nothing
universe is.
exists,
When you say the Earth is
and you go
6,000
into
years old,
nothing.
when you say the Earth is 6,000 years old, what do you mean by 6,000 years?
Do you know more? Do you think you know more than God with your arrogance?
Can you
there?
answer my question, please?
What was your question?
When you say the Earth is 6,000 years old, what do you mean by 6,000 years?
That time is relevant. Relativity. You know, like you can have a perspective that it's billions of years ago. Even depending
That's
on when
not
you
what
are in our
relativity says.
universe, it
That's
can
not what relativity
change.
says, though.
Because
Relativity doesn't say that, oh, you can just pick whatever definition of whatever you want. Relativity is very specific and it's very mathematical.
Okay, explain it then. If you have a physics
so
degree, explain it.
I will. So, from the perspective of if you're in a deep gravitational well, for example, relative to somebody who's not in a deep gravitational well, seconds for the person in the deep gravitational well could be years for the person far away from the deep gravitational well. Similarly, if you have somebody traveling in a circle very, very quickly, just like constantly, like near the speed of light, just going in a circle over and over again, seconds for them might be thousands of years for somebody who's not doing that. But there's a formula to figure out what the conversion rate between proper times are. And so if you want to find the conversion rate to make it so that the universe actually is 6,000 years old, that would mean one of two things. Either A, whatever you're measuring the age of the universe from, whatever perspective you're measuring the age of the universe from, it's either A, sitting next to a black hole, or B, it is flying in circles or flying at some extraordinary speed, very, very close to the speed of light through space. So are you saying that God is sitting next to a black hole?
Well, I don't agree with your definition. That's actually a pretty poor definition for a doctor, I'll say.
Definition of what? I wasn't giving a definition. I was explaining how time dilation works.
I asked you to explain like
I explained how time. So I was explaining how time dilation works in particular. Relativity is much broader.
Yeah, in the context of relativity, time is not absolute. What you tried to do was
instead the relationship depends on the reference frame.
You defined it by rotations around the sun.
Nope, I did not say anything about rotations around the sun.
You did.
No.
Now you're backtracking.
No. Earlier, I said that a year is one rotation around the sun from Earth's reference frame. That's absolutely true. Right. That's just what a year is. That's how we define what a year is. Relativity has nothing to do with that.
And then I came back, and it's not an absolute. You know, that you tried to like give.
You mean what a year is? I mean that is what a year is. A year is the amount of time it takes for Earth to go around the sun from Earth's reference frame. Yeah.
It's not absolute.
Equivalently, it's some number. It's some fixed number of seconds.
And the other
525,600 minutes, if you will.
Definition is it varies by the observer's relative motion and gravitational field. And that's what leads to time dilation.
Right, but you can't just make it. You can't. It's not arbitrary. Like you have to be in specific scenarios in order to have the time be relative, right?
But
so if you want the universe to be 6,000 years old, then that means that you have to either be sitting next to a black hole, or you have to be, moving at some extraordinarily high speed, close to the speed of light.
No. So here's
those are the two options that you have. Yeah.
Yeah, here and if you ever gave me a dissertation or that, I would point out this. Your definition lacked the fact that if I'm a human on Earth, that year is one rotation around the sun. Mm-hmm. You have to add that perspective because there's elements in the universe where
that's just what a year is defined as generally
of time. Because it is a relative perspective, and we understand that at science and as observation. So your whole theory is
that's not how that works, though. Look, a year is defined. A year is defined as the amount of time it takes for the Earth to go around the sun from the Earth's reference frame. That's just what a year is defined as. It's that many seconds.
Yeah, from the perspective of being on the Earth.
That's why I said from the Earth's reference frame. So, like, however many seconds it takes.
Now you add on definitions.
I said that like 5 or 10 minutes ago. However many seconds it takes for the Earth to go, however many seconds from the Earth's reference frame it takes for the Earth to go around the sun, that's what a year is. It's that many seconds, right?
Yeah. So we know that you can have, 6,000 years or 14 billion years, right? Both can be.
Yeah, if you want the
based
universe,
off of
if
relativity.
from your perspective you want the universe to be 14 billion years old,
I just
then
need you to agree on that point.
if you want the universe to be 14 billion or 6,000 years old, then you need to be sitting next to a black hole or flying near the speed of light for the entire duration of the universe's evolution.
Yeah, or have been able to transcend.
No, that's not part of relativity. That's not part of relativity.
Well, that's part of creationism, and science actually proves that time has different is not absolute. So,
yeah, it's exactly relative in the way that I've described. That it's different near a black hole and it's different at high speeds.
Can exist, and
no, not really.
Have a perspective that the
okay,
Earth
so what is the reference frame? What is the spatial? What is the reference frame that God occupies so that the universe is 6,000 years old from His view?
Yeah.
What is the reference frame?
I think He deals in eternity.
I don't know what that means.
And He transcends time.
I don't know what that. So then there's no. So then He has no time. So it's not 6,000 years old from His perspective.
Something that you can't explain. You know, who created time?
So to be clear, He doesn't. So it's not 6,000 years old from His perspective because He transcends time. Can you answer my question, please? Can you answer my question, please?
What's your question? Because you're dodging all like.
God transcends time, right? God transcends time, right? God transcends time, right?
So like.
God transcends time, right? God transcends time, right?
Right.
Okay. Does God experience time?
He's omniscient. So no.
So He doesn't experience time. So from whose perspective is the universe 6,000 years old?
Yeah, you tell me. You know, like
this is your claim.
Okay, from the authors that
they were on Earth.
God's word in the Bible.
They were on Earth. They were on Earth, right?
But who are they talking to?
Other humans?
And
nobody else. They were writing it in Greek and Aramaic and Hebrew.
Oh, put on your blinders.
Wait, I'm sorry. Who was their audience? Who was their audience?
Put on those blinders, doctor.
I'm sorry, who was their audience?
Their definition of time.
I'm sorry, who was their audience?
Else, you know?
Silly goose. You're being very silly goose. Silly goose. Who was their audience? You tell me.
Their audience is probably all humanity.
Okay, and are humanity people on Earth, would you say?
Partly, yeah. I mean, partly people have died, you know, like.
So you would say that humanity is people on Earth, so do people on Earth, are they in the reference frame of the Earth?
Not all of them. I mean,
which people on Earth are not in the reference frame of the Earth?
Those that are the Son of God, that you know, are sacrificed on the cross.
Oh, so what reference frame is He in?
Yeah.
What reference frame is He in?
He's goes from earthly one to an eternal one.
Sorry, the Earth one to the eternal one. So which one is it?
Yeah, there's two different. So okay,
any given observer isn't exactly one reference frame.
So there was a person that died for like 3 seconds, and he woke up like he lived an entire lifetime. You know, like,
that was his brain doing brain things, right? That doesn't mean that he actually lived an entire lifetime.
Doesn't, but how do you prove that he didn't go from
because we know where his body is, because his body was there the whole time,
back to our earthly existence,
because his body was there the whole time. So what reference frame what reference frame is heaven in?
How do you explain that when they weigh a dead
sorry, what reference frame is heaven in?
There's 21 grams difference.
I explain that by saying it's false.
Okay.
So what reference frame is heaven in?
Observe it and weigh like a
it's
body
been debunked like 100 times, my guy.
Without a soul. Yeah.
It's been debunked like 100 times.
Debunked, right? You know, we now know that time is not absolute. Yet
Never said it was.
Put a measurement on it.
Well, so when we talk about the age of the universe, we're using the universe's at rest reference frame. That's what we're doing. You could use some other reference frame if you want, but then it's just arbitrary. So we use the universe's rest reference frame, which is the reference frame of the cosmic microwave background radiation.
And why?
Oh, because it's universal, right? Everybody can figure it out. Yeah.
It's to limit the understanding of time, which is what you're trying to do. You're trying to say it's 14 billion years old and have a measurement and say, well, the Bible says 6,000 years.
To be clear,
in our own science,
I'm saying that it's not 6,000 years old. I'm saying the Earth is not 6,000 years old. To be clear, I'm saying the Earth is not 6,000 years old.
Yeah.
Right. And the way that you can establish this is like pretty easy to establish. Like you can't even use relativity to get around this because the age of something is determined by the internal clock of that thing. Right. And so if the Earth is 6,000 years old, yeah, no, that's exactly how we define the age of something. Yeah.
No, because you're leaving out the context of relativity.
No, relativity defines the age of something as its proper time. Yeah. Yeah, it does.
It's based off the observer's relative motion and gravitational
field. You're confused. It's based off of the it's based off of the proper time of the thing that you're measuring the age of. Yeah.
You just tried to limit definitions and your own
Silly Goose, how old are you?
Understanding of
Hey Silly Goose, how old are you?
Understanding of
Hey
time.
Silly Goose, how old are you?
I'm 49.
Oh, from whose reference frame?
From my own.
Okay, so why didn't you say that you're 6?
Because I'm 49 from my human perspective reference frame and things like that, And I could have said it doesn't matter.
And how old is, I don't know.
What would you have said to a response? It doesn't matter. It depends on the
No, but the point is that the way that we determine the age of something is from the thing's own reference frame. That's how we do it.
Right.
Just like that's what you did. From your own, you calculated your age from your own reference frame. You're 49. And so from the Earth's reference frame, the Earth is not 6,000 years old. It's about 4.5 billion years old.
Right. And imagine you tell yourself you know
so
more than God.
So we agree, the Earth is not 6,000 years old?
You're more knowledgeable than God. And
so do we agree that the Earth is not 6,000 years old?
Is that what your doctorate degree told you to?
I didn't hear anything you said because my mic is way louder than yours. So to be clear, do we agree that the Earth is not 6,000 years old?
Then you misunderstood the entire argument. It's relative.
I don't think you had an argument. It's not It's not relative. The age of something is determined by its own proper time, which is its own reference frame.
You don't know more than God. We do know that too. So.
All right, Silly Goose. Thanks for being here. What a character. I don't know why the YouTube join link isn't working, but let's bring up Jimmy. Oh, actually, I think I have some super chats to read. Yeah, well, Jimmy, how's it going? I'll read some super chats after this guest.
Yo, what?
Jimmy, can you hear me?
I only got a few minutes.
Okay. How old do you think the Earth is?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I only have a few minutes, but I really only have one question for you. I want to see how you answer it.
Sure, but can you first answer my question of how old do you think the Earth is?
I just believe that it's 6,000 years old.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
But my question is, which one came up first, the chicken or the egg?
Eggs came before chickens.
How so?
Because dinosaurs laid eggs and dinosaurs aren't chickens.
Yeah, but where did the eggs come from?
Dinosaurs.
Where did the dinosaurs come from?
Their ancestors.
Okay, where did the first dinosaur come from?
Well, there wasn't really a first dinosaur. It's like evolution isn't like it's not on and off, like it's not black and white like that. But like the first dinosaur-like thing would have had a less dinosaur-like ancestor.
Okay, so would it have also come from an egg?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, well then where would it have come from?
A non-egg? Not all, like we don't lay eggs, right?
A non-egg, so a live birth?
Possibly, yeah. Or I mean, like, do you count hold on, just to be clear, do you count like fish eggs as eggs because like those are like soft-shelled?
Yeah, I mean, I could.
Okay, so then it probably came from an egg, and then it probably came from an egg. I would imagine that like most fish, I think most fish Except no, sharks give live birth. So yeah, I don't know whether or not like the first species of dinosaur laid eggs or not. I don't know. I know that some fish lay eggs and some fish don't. But yeah, I mean, if your issue is just with evolution, then I mean, I guess that's something we could talk about.
Yeah, so that really it's evolution. Evolution is very not great. Why have we not seen any big macro evolution happen within the last say 100 years or
given
1,000 years even?
So
we haven't seen any macro.
With your
microevolution.
So with your understanding of evolution, do you think that if evolution was real, that we would expect to see large species-wide changes over the course of 100 or 1,000 years?
Over 1,000 years, yes.
Oh, then it seems like your understanding of evolution is not good, because that's not expected given the evolutionary theory. Because we expect that smaller changes take less time than bigger changes. And so over the course of thousands of years, we expect to see very small changes. Over the course of tens of thousands of years, we expect to see slightly bigger changes. Over the course of hundreds of thousands of years to millions of years, we expect to see even bigger changes, and so on.
Okay, so that would end up leading you to the how old is the Earth question.
I suppose, yeah. The point is given evolution as a model of the way that we understand biological development, it seems like you wouldn't expect to see so-called macro evolution over the course of 100 or 1,000 years. So I don't know why you're trying to say, why haven't we seen it if evolution is true? Evolution doesn't expect that.
But it would expect it.
No,
like it,
no,
it would
wouldn't.
expect that some species, like we don't see any species going, like over like history of human existence, right?
Humans have been recording history for about 5,000 years, right?
Look back to the past.
Right. So it takes
so 5,000 years.
The evolutionary history.
5,000, you should be able to see some
the evolutionary model expects changes, large-scale species-wide or speciation changes, to take place over hundreds of thousands to millions of years. That's just the expectation, right? And so over 5,000 years is just not very much time relative to, say, 400,000 years. I don't know why you would expect otherwise. That's just not what the theory of evolution says.
Right?
Sure. Sorry, one more time? You cut out a little bit. Jimmy, you're cutting out a bit.
Lose. You never see an appendix.
Can you guys hear him? Because he's cutting out a bit for me.
Can you hear me now?
No, you're like... That's what you're doing right now.
Okay.
You're cutting out. Are you in a tunnel? By chance?
Hello?
Howdy. Do you happen to be in a tunnel?
No, I'm about 2 feet up.
Are you connected? Are you trying to connect to your Wi-Fi, or?
6 feet up.
All right. Well, maybe when you come down, Jimmy, probably focus on your work, and then when you come down, then we can talk. How about that? I'd love to bring a YouTube guest on, but for some reason, YouTube guests are just not connecting. I don't understand why. Actually, I have an idea. Let me try something. Let me just open up a new browser. Hopefully now they will. Oh my God, it's working. It's working. Novice, how's it going? Oh, actually, sorry, Novice, I'm gonna mute you. I promised I would read Superchats. And I just keep forgetting. So from Mostly gizzards, I think I may have already read this one, but from mostly gizzards with the $5, by this argument, Santa Claus is real, even though there's compelling evidence otherwise. Yeah, that's roughly the point. That's the whole issue with the last Thursdayism, right? From Gretchen Z with the $5, oh, I get it. You can't measure time because there's a hole in the theory and all the photon juice leaked out of the black hole. Did I nail it? You absolutely nailed it, Gretchen. Absolutely, 100%, absolutely. And then from Casey with the $5 says, caller sounds under the influence. Always admire your respect and ability to keep it cool in these conversations. He probably was, but that doesn't mean that he's not allowed to, TikTok can't hear YouTube. No, I know. That doesn't mean that he's not allowed to voice his concerns. And then from Mind-Forged Manacles with the $5, Leviticus 25, your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves, they will become your property. Right, so this is an instruction, right? Or at least permission. So there is something to be said there that this is not just saying, oh, it was just the way the time was going, right? And then from Alan Rollins, thank you so much for the $5 super chat, saying, will you address old Earth creationism? Several good arguments in its favor. Non-24 meaning of Yom, natural evidence for sequence of creative acts. That's, I've talked about, we could talk about that, but that's just not the topic today. All right, let's talk to Novice. Novice, can you hear me?
Yeah, am I coming through well?
Yeah, you're coming through perfectly. So, how old do you think the Earth is?
So I personally am unconvinced of either the 6,000 or the 4.5 billion, but I do want to voice something that I feel that the previous guests weren't able to actually articulate.
Sure, go ahead.
So a couple of times I've heard them discuss or try to discuss relativity and try to bring up time dilation. But the ultimate answer comes back to neither of those are relevant because, and I'm speaking from the lens of a 6,000-year-old creationist, a young Earth creationist. God is outside of our perception of time. Now, some apologists like Ken Ham will argue that the Earth was created absolutely 6,000 years ago. When we look at the lineages given to us through Scripture, that we're able to see the exact age of the Earth. You'll find other apologists like Hugh Ross, who is an old Earth creationist. As you just said, you've discussed those before. But in both examples, it ultimately comes back to God exists outside of our perception of time. That's how something exists when you create it. You exist outside of it.
Sure.
So for them to say that God is affected by relativism or by time dilation negates the sovereignty of God.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, but you came on because you don't think the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, but you also don't think it's 6,000 years old. So what's the issue?
I wanted to articulate what I felt they were failing to an extent. I probably lean closer to the 4.5 billion rather than the 6,000. But I felt that it doesn't do justice to an individual if they don't have the words to articulate what they want to say.
I agree. If people don't have the words to articulate what they want to say, they shouldn't join.
I would agree with you. But I just saw that and I was like, well, this just feels like it's almost bad faith. Not intentional bad faith from you, but to bother arguing. And I can I absolutely respect you coming on and debating people. But just people who don't know.
I'm not going to tell people that they're not allowed to say what they're saying. Thanks for being here, Novice. All right, let's bring up another guest. By the way, if you guys want to support the live, we got a 1,000, I think it's 1,000 ARS is about 3 quarters. So this is Argentinian pesos. Thank you so much. From Melissa Fernandez, evolution exists. Search about superbacterias or resistant tuberculosis. Evolution absolutely exists. 100% absolutely does. But let's move on to another guest. Brandon, how's it going?
Hey, Dr. Blitz. Good, mate. And yourself?
I'm doing all right. How old do you think the Earth is?
I suspect that it is 4.5 billion years old. If that means that this is completely off topic, I don't want to take your time. I commend you for your incredible patience, sir. But I do think...
Thank you. It does mean that, though. By the way, remember to like the live, and if you want, and you're 18 plus, join the Discord server. There's a Discord server that you can join. The link is in the description on YouTube. It's in my bio it's in the link tree in my bio on TikTok. There's great people there to talk with, and then you can talk cross-platform, so YouTube people can talk to TikTok people and vice versa. So, Nicholas, how's it going?
I wasn't expecting to get thrown on.
Well, here you are.
Correct? Perfect.
Yeah. Do you think that? Okay. How old do you think the Earth is?
All right. So, similarly to the past guest, I would like to articulate previous guests and my own thoughts on that.
I'd rather you articulate your own thoughts.
Well, it is my own thoughts. It comes to a conclusion.
So, how old do you think the Earth is?
I believe it is roughly 4.5 billion years old.
Okay.
And the one
Thanks for being here, Nicholas. Torsten Peel, thank you for joining and being a member on YouTube. Alberto, how's it going?
It's going good.
Alberto, before we get started, how old do you think the Earth is?
It's really old. It's not 6,000.
Okay, thanks for being here. All right, let's bring up Jones. Jones Nate, welcome. Jones? Jones? Jones Nate. Osmosis Jones.
Just going right through him. Hello.
Jones, can you hear me?
Pardon me for just 1 minute, please. I am actually going back and forth. Sorry. I can hear you. Give me 1 second.
So you have to watch from the
there we go.
From the app.
Am I on now?
You are, but you have to watch from the app.
Osmosis?
You can't listen from YouTube.
There we go.
You got to be listening from the website, not from YouTube, okay?
Okay, so I'm a little bit behind on your...
Let's give him a second, because he's behind, so he'll have to wait a second for him to hear it. All right, can you hear me now? Jones?
Pardon the delay. I'm actually on the website.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right, so Jones, I'm going to hang up on you. Feel free to rejoin.
Okay.
Open the website. Don't minimize it. Oh,
how do I unmute you on the website?
I am unmuted already. This is so I'm going to hang up. Just rejoin. You need to have the website play your audio, and then you can come back in, and I'll bring you up. Okay. He was working outside. I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be mad at him for that. Dude was working outside, you know. Let's see if he joins up, and then we can get him in here. Okay, he's here. Jones, welcome back. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now. I was
Great.
actually listening to you on YouTube while having my camera on the website.
I know.
Because I wasn't able for some reason to get on.
Right.
YouTube.
So
anyway,
Jones, do you believe, or how old do you think that the Earth is?
I believe roughly between 6,000 to 8,000 years.
Okay, cool. Why?
Just because that is, as one of your previous guests noted, that is the rough estimate by calculating the ages of Adam and his descendants through the Genesis account, and then tallying up the 2,000 years plus since Jesus Christ.
Yeah, sure. That sounds about right. So what do you make of the evidence that is seemingly contradictory? Things like radiocarbon, or not radio, well, radiocarbon dating for one, other forms of radiometric dating, ice core samples, things like this. What do you make of those?
Okay, let me address the first issue first. You mentioned radiocarbon dating.
Sure.
That one, so there was a guy named Russ Hansen, used to have a ministry called In the Beginning, Inc. He was a former geologist for the oil companies, and he used to run a nonprofit that went around doing the creation versus evolution debate in the 1990s. And he would go to churches for their vacation Bible schools and things like that. And so my evidence is based on what he said, plus my own research since then.
Sure.
And basically that the issue is that radiocarbon dating itself has been somewhat proven unreliable because it's not, it actually does get affected by weather patterns. A lot of people try to claim that it is not affected by weather, but
so it depends, right? I mean, the issue with radiocarbon dating is that if you have carbon leakage, if you have carbon leaking in or carbon leaking out, then of course you can affect it. But in scenarios where you don't expect radiocarbon or where you don't expect carbon to leak in or out, then there's no issue, right?
if there was such a place, then yes, I would agree with that. I'm not. Unfortunately, I don't know the raw data to be able to.
What about other forms of radiometric dating, though, that don't have that issue?
I'm not too familiar with radio dating. The one issue I wanted to speak of or touch on.
But it's a different type of element.
Okay. Sorry, I just used the wrong terminology.
You're good.
So the one issue I wanted to touch on was the one that I heard probably 10, 15 years ago, which was where they were talking about, and it seemed to be what you had on the background on your YouTube live stream, where it was like light from afar reaching the Earth, and it takes time for that light to reach the Earth.
Yep.
So that's one of the arguments used by the old Earth theorists, that the Earth is old, because it would take 14 billion years for that those light photons or whatever to reach the Earth from so far away.
Sure.
My sort of personal opinion / argument on that is that when God created everything, he created it in such a way that those light photons from such far away were already reaching the Earth at the time of creation. So what we are seeing that would normally take billions and billions of years to reach the Earth actually started reaching us at the very beginning.
Sure.
We're essentially we're watching a live stream from far away because everything was being seen from the beginning.
Right. And and you don't have to actually address the science of this if you don't want to, but it seems like it is the case that distant observations of galaxies and so on, if you naively just assumed that things had to travel starting from their origin, then you would get billions of years old for the universe. And when you do uranium-lead dating, for example, another kind of radiometric dating, you get that the Earth is billions of years old. And when you do ice core samples from like Antarctica, you get that the Earth is more than 800,000 years old. So why is it that all of these independent pieces of evidence point towards the Earth being older than 6,000 to 8,000 years old?
I think I would, so that goes to the interpretation of data issue. You have to interpret the data in a way that makes sense to you personally, whether you're a scientist or a layman. You referenced, so ice core samples, the ones that I've heard about, not necessarily from Antarctica, but from like the North Pole areas.
From like Greenland, yeah.
There was a famous World War II, there were World War II aircraft that had to do emergency landings and whatnot during World War II. And those ice core samples show the same type of ice layering, that similar ice layering that is used as an argument for an old Earth. Those ice cores are only like 50 years old at this point because they're from World War II.
So just to be clear,
how you interpret the data has to be dependent on your own worldview.
So what happened? So you're talking about Glacier Girl, right? This was a plane that landed in Greenland, and it was covered by a glacier, right? Like glaciers move. It was just a glacier rolled over it. It wasn't snow falling on top of it, producing hundreds of feet of snow. It was a glacier just rolled on top of it. That's all. But in Antarctica, we don't have glacial shifts like that. We just have ice sheets. Ice sheets are just big, flat, not moving ice sheets. And you just drill down and you can see the seasons. You can see the warm periods, you can see the cool periods, right? You can see the seasons. And you see 800,000 of them or more. Or you see 1,000, more than 6,000, more than 8,000 of them in the ice core samples. And that's just a little bit strange, right?
I would say it's strange if the data was well known and well researched. My question there becomes, okay, so how do you determine that the individual ice layers from these samples happened over the course of years and not days or hours or
They have
minutes?
seasonal trends, right? The seasons happen, each season happens once a year, right?
I mean, well, I'm from Wisconsin. We have multiple seasons every day, so.
Well, no, I mean like there are seasonal variations, like it's colder in winter than it is in summer.
Yeah, I mean, even in Wisconsin, yes, we're going to have 30 degree,
nature,
30 below only in the winter usually.
So the cyclical nature, that's the thing that you can see in the ice core samples. But like, if you're skeptical of those, we can look at radiometric dating, like uranium lead dating. This one's like, I've talked to young Earth creationists who even say, yeah, uranium lead dating is a problem for us because uranium lead dating is pretty straightforward, right? You have a big lump of uranium-238. If you waited 4.5 billion years, then half of that uranium would be lead. And if you waited 4.5 million years, then you can calculate how much of it would be lead and so on. And you can just go find rocks or crystals rather, crystals which are solid.
I understand.
And so,
sorry, shouldn't interrupt.
Like, there's more decay than you can account for in 8,000 years old, or in 8,000 years. I just don't know how you square that circle.
So that would be, that's a question of, again, how do you interpret the raw data? Because obviously we as humans have not been around for 4.5 billion years. So how do you know without using any faith how do you know that these uranium decays are going to take so long?
Yeah.
Yes,
so
you can look at a small portion of time and multiply it, but that takes a certain amount of faith that when you take that portion of time and multiply it, the math is going to work out over time.
So,
but we don't have.
So we're just relying on quantum
We don't
mechanics,
have solid
right?
scientific evidence of that.
Well, no, we do. That's what quantum
Sorry,
mechanics
I didn't quite
is.
hear your question.
So quantum mechanics is the fundamental kind of guiding set of laws, if you will. We have the Schrodinger equation, and then we have various things deriving from the Schrodinger equation. Quantum mechanics is I should call it the framework that underlies radioactive decay, right? That's how we understand radioactive decay. And quantum mechanics is like wildly evidenced. Like it has so much, in fact, of anything scientific, it has the most evidence ever produced by anything scientific. It makes the best predictions, has the best explanatory power, the best, it matches the data most accurately. And the consistency of radioactive decay is what quantum mechanics tells us should happen. And then we just go out and we look in the world. We look at radon or radium, any of these radioactive things, and we see that these are consistent. So the quantum mechanics makes a prediction that radioactive decay is consistent, and it's never not been consistent. There's never been a single observation of it not being consistent. And quantum mechanics, unless you're saying the laws of physics changed.
I do have one question on that.
Yeah,
one
sure.
counter question.
Sure. So, and quantum mechanics indicates. Sorry,
Chernobyl is my main question.
Sorry, I wasn't done. Quantum mechanics. From quantum mechanics, we can deduce that the radioactive decay rate can't have changed over time. And so, it's if you say, oh well, how do you know that the radioactive decay rate wasn't different a long time ago and it decayed a lot faster? Well, quantum mechanics says otherwise, and we can go into the details of what would have to be the case in order for that to happen. But we can talk about that anyway. You were saying.
Yeah. So I haven't studied the science of this specific event too much, but I've heard certain people make the claim that Chernobyl itself, when that exploded, and we all have seen the videos and whatnot, at least like the TV and movies and stuff.
Sure.
When that went up, at the time it went up, they were saying, according to their science, that at the time they were saying their science that nothing would be able to grow there, nothing would be able to thrive there, nothing would be able to live there for, I can't remember the numbers, but it was like thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, like 10,000 years.
Point. But yet here we are, only handful of decades later,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like grass and flowers and trees and deer, and yes, they're all very radioactive, but they are not nearly as radioactive as they were trying to claim back when the Chernobyl accident actually happened.
Yeah, so there's two things. First, we claim, when I say we, I mean Europe. Europe cleaned up Chernobyl. You have people that went in and basically took away all of the topsoil and got rid of it, because that was the stuff that was irradiated. Just cleaned it up, got rid of all of the topsoil. I don't actually know where they put it, probably in barrels underwater. Then they encased Chernobyl in like dozens of feet of concrete to make sure nothing leaked out, like the actual plant. So they did a cleanup operation. And what's left is that you still have like horrible mutations on the animals that live there, like horrible, devastating, like disgusting mutations. Like you have like animals being born with like multiple heads, and like it's really weird. But
Simpsons kind of stuff.
But like, you know, animals tend to thrive wherever they can, and if so, you know, they will. And so, yeah, I mean, between the cleanup process, between the sarcophagus that they encased Chernobyl in, and then just, you know, animals' ability to adapt, animal life is, in some sense, thriving there. What that means is not that the decay rate changed, because you can go measure the decay rate of, say, the elephant's foot, which is like the big chunk of, you know, radioactive stuff that's just lying there at the base. You can go measure that, and it's decaying at exactly the rate we expect it to. What's happening is just that animals are able to adapt more quickly than we thought. Our cleanup methods were more effective than we thought.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I don't really have any counter argument to that, because as I said, I haven't done much research into that specific event. So I guess, thank you for your time. It's been a bit enlightening, because I never actually knew about the cleanup of Chernobyl, and that was one of the things that I've always. Yeah. Okay, I'll have to look into that. So thank you for your time. I've got to get back to work. I think we're going to agree to disagree on the age of the universe, but you have a good day and the time that you have.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for being here, Jones. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
All right. I have some super chats to read, I think, and then we'll bring up a next guest. So we have Garba Gaiman with the 5 Canuck bucks. That's right. It is bad faith. Bad faith of you to expect creationists to understand what they mean. Yeah, that's the point. And we have a few Cash App donations as well from Shay with the $10 for the juice fund, bean, photon, or fruit of choice. Yeah, so if you guys haven't heard, photon juice is the next big thing. Thank you so much, Shay. Always appreciated. And then from Peter with the $10, thanks for making my work days worth putting up with. Look, I do my best. I do my best. That's what we're here for, right? All right, let us bring up another guest, this time from TikTok. Let's talk to Dan Can. Dan Can, how's it going?
Hi, Doc. I'm doing all right.
Glad to hear it. How old do you think the Earth is?
I think I could not give you a number on what I think it is, but I don't think it's billions of years old.
Do you think it's like less than 1 million years old?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I wouldn't call myself a Christian. I'm a believer, and I do. You know,
By the way, Dan, your audio's a little bit low.
Okay, I'll hold the phone closer. Is that any better?
Hopefully.
Okay. All right.
You were saying?
Yeah. So I don't call myself a Christian, but I am a believer. That said, I don't claim to know things with certainty. But I do believe that the universe was created. I don't think it's a random thing that happened.
Okay. Why do you think that it's less than 1 million years old, though?
What's that?
Why do you think that it's less than 1 million years old, though?
Why do I think it's less than 1 million years old? I don't claim to have a number, but I would say a lot of the things that support the timeline that you believe, the billions, I feel like there's so much science that conflicts with that belief.
Like what?
Okay, one thing that that's fascinated me, and I feel like more things are going to come out with this. I'm sure you're familiar with Mary Schweitzer the paleontologist. Yeah, and the soft tissue and the dinosaur fossils.
Yeah.
So that right there is a big one. And you know what's so interesting to me? So that came out in like 05. And then it took like 10 years before, you know, it started to creep into mainstream circles and you even heard about it. Like,
sure.
To me, it's even fascinating that it's not common knowledge. Like, I can say that to so many people, and most people have not even heard of that. But it was like, as it started to become a little mainstream, you started hearing arguments. It was like people on your side of the, you know, the aisle were trying to find explanations for it. But,
so, I mean, when you have something unexplained, the thing you're supposed to do is try to figure out an explanation, right?
Well, okay, no, here's what I would say. If you get a piece of data that doesn't line up with your beliefs, you don't double down and say, I know this to be true, so I have to find something to make this piece of data fit into my beliefs. If you have enough things that conflict with your beliefs, you should say, okay, maybe we got to rewrite some things here. And I feel like
perhaps. Right. But for example, with the dinosaur soft tissue thing, there are roughly two explanations. Either one, the fossils aren't as old as we think they are, or two, they are as old and there's some mechanism that preserved the soft tissue that we didn't know about, right? So we need to figure out which one of those it is. How do you suspect we do that?
How do I suspect we do that? I would say do testing, do research.
Right, and that's what was done. And they found various mechanisms that can account for soft tissue preservation in very old fossils.
That's incorrect. They did one study where they kind of concluded that if you had enough iron in blood, maybe it could keep all these complex molecules from breaking down. And then you didn't hear anything more about it. It was like,
which study are you referring to? Are you referring to the Fenton reactions and the glycation mechanism?
Well, you're getting a little technical for me there.
Well, which study? Because I'm not familiar with the study that you're referring to, unless it's this one, because this is the one that I've seen.
Where someone concluded that if enough, I guess in the past they thought maybe dinosaurs had a more iron-rich blood, and possibly high iron could somehow prevent, you know, these complex molecules, DNA and other things, from breaking down, or slow down that, you know, that rate of breakdown. But then you never really heard anything about it. To me, it felt like,
to be clear, so I don't know what paper you're referring to. The paper I'm referring, and I'm not a biochemist, so I'm just reading the abstract, right? But the paper I'm referring to is from 6 years ago. It's not like old.
Well, let's see if that came out. Yeah, because it was like 6 years ago. Okay. Yeah,
I see. I just found another paper from like 2006 that you know, is examining possible explanations.
Well, that's odd, because I think Mary Schweitzer's discovery was like 05. So that seems odd. I don't think they were doing that testing.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a paper that's examining it in 2006. In particular, it's examining it in light of the T-Rex discovery.
Oh, really? That's what it's saying?
Yeah. It says soft tissues and cell-like microstructures derived from skeletal elements of a well-preserved T-Rex were represented by 4 components and fragments of demineralized cortical and/or medullary bone, flexible and fibrous bone matrix, transparent, hollow, pliable blood vessels, blah 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 blah. So they're referring specifically to that finding, and they're saying, okay, what are the possible explanations? And I don't think that they come to any definitive conclusions. They're kind of just studying it. And then there's this other study from 6 years ago that says, yeah, here are 2 plausible explanations.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd only read the one maybe, I feel like it was maybe 10 years ago, but it seemed very inconclusive. And I don't know, the way you're reading those, it feels like you're presenting them as conclusive.
Well, look, so here's the thing. If you have one sample, right? You have one sample, you have a T-Rex that has this very well-preserved stuff. So the question is, so you can propose hypotheses to plausibly explain this, and you should make sure that they're like sound hypotheses insofar as like the mechanisms exist and the chemistry is right and all these things. But there's no way to test those until you find more. And then so like you can have plausible explanations, but until you have more plausible until you have more things to test it against, to test your explanations against, there's not much more you can do, right?
oh, Doc, you got to dig into this. Now, since that discovery with Mary Schweitzer, right, because no one had ever found anything like this.
Right, but the initial explanations that you were suggesting came out shortly after the discovery, within 10 years. And so the question then is well, of course they weren't going to be definitive. They only had the one thing, right?
No, but here we are, 20 years later, and I don't think there's a good answer to it. But no, here was my point, is since that discovery, and I say this in a, like a humorous way, but people just started cracking open dinosaur fossils to see, like, hey, is this stuff in my dinosaur fossil? And so if you look into it, you can find this in a lot of dinosaur fossils. This was not like some weird freak accident. That,
well, I mean, initially it was, right, like 20 years ago, and now there's more data. And so now we have more explanations, or perhaps better evidenced explanations. For example, this one from 6 years ago. This provides two very concrete explanations for contributions to the preservation of blood vessel structures.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's at least worth, it's at least worth as like a plausible explanation.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I'd not dug into this in a long time, but I never read anything that was real convincing. But again, I don't read things and think, okay, look, gotcha. This proves God is real. The Bible is true. That's not how I look at reality. And here's the thing: even if the universe is young, even if everything was created by some, I would like to say, a giant floating head in space, it doesn't prove the Bible's true. So I don't even come at this from a point of like, I'm a Christian and I got to prove the Bible is true. I'm just someone who's fascinated by science. And this is a topic that I've always kind of locked in on. Another one.
Well, but wait a minute, hold on. So the point is so your original claim was that if you have evidence that contradicts some model that the universe is, say, billions of years old, then you need to address that. And so you brought up the T-Rex. But now, so we can run it the other way. If you have a hypothesis or a model that says the universe is less than 1 million years old, well, then you need to address radiometric dating. How do you explain that?
How do I explain that? Okay, let me ask you this one.
Is this going to be an explanation, or is it a question?
Okay, no, I'm going to throw an item at you, and then you tell me what you think about that. And now give me this. I'm telling you, most of my information is coming from young Earth creationists and flood. Are you familiar with the term flood geology?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of the stuff is from that. I mean, you can smirk, but hey, research is research. So diamonds are ancient, right? Very, yeah. So my understanding is that
I mean, we can make them in labs, but yeah, the natural ones are, yeah.
Oh yeah, which is pretty cool that you can make them.
Yep.
Inside of diamonds, you can find C14.
Yep.
C14 is only supposed to last tens of thousands of years at a maximum.
50,000 years is where you're beyond the point of detectability. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you do with things like that? And there's other items like that.
So you don't find C14. What you find is so I'm familiar with the study that you're referring to, or the analysis that you're referring to. And what you find is not that there were detectable levels of C14. What you find is, regardless of what you put into your machine, you detect some amount of C14, which just means that there's some measurement error in your detector. Right? Like that's what it boils down to.
Okay, so I mean, you're basically just saying, I'm saying this could be true, and you're saying that's not true. Or you're not really.
Well, yeah. So I can pull up the study for you. The study that's often referenced by like Answers in Genesis and so on, is an analysis of the. It's called the background or the signal to noise ratio, basically, for certain kinds of spectroscopic instruments that are used for detecting C14. So what they do is they literally say, look, we're going to take diamonds, which we know have no measurable amounts of C14, and we're going to measure the amount of we're going to try to read how much C14 our instrument says there is in it, and then we're going to use that as kind of like the background level, the amount that our detector always detects regardless of what our sample is. Because they knew that there's no C14 in the diamonds. And you can check this against other things that don't have C14, and you'll find that you get the same answer, because you will always detect some amount, you'll always get some signal. It's just the amount of signal is something that you need to measure empirically. And so that's what they were doing in this study.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay. You could be right. You could be wrong.
I can show you the study if you want.
There's no way I can, we're just gonna have to. And again, I read these articles. You could be correct about what they had done. I feel like I've read it in several sources, several places, and I don't. There are people who will lie. That's a fact. I don't think all these people are lying. So okay, but you're saying this is just not a true thing.
So they're basically, essentially what they're doing is they're calibrating their machines using diamonds. They're saying, look, we know diamonds have 0 in them because they're very old and they're pure carbon. And so we can now calibrate our machines. Our machine is going to say that there's some non-zero amount because no machine is perfect. So we're going to use diamonds to calibrate our machines. And then we can go and make more accurate measurements. That's the whole point.
Okay. Well, maybe.
And if I can, I used to have that. Oh, there we go. Is this it? Yeah, use of natural diamonds to monitor C14 AMS instrument backgrounds. This is one example of the papers. I should really put this in my file. I don't know why I don't have it. At some point I had it, but I must have done away with it. But the point is that this is like something that was done as a calibration technique, not as a way to measure the amount of C14 in diamonds. That was the whole purpose, and that's what they did. And they calibrated, and they did a good job.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe. Yeah. Well, it's been interesting talking with you.
But look, what about the other radiometric dating that says the universe is, or that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old? This is not carbon. It's not carbon dating, right?
Right.
And you have to address that, right? If that conflicts with your view.
No, I don't doubt. It's interesting. You were talking to the one guy earlier, I think, about quantum physics dictating the rate of decay, and that's a constant. I'm not doubting that. It seems like the laws of the universe are the laws of the universe. So there are, again, I don't know that my viewpoint is correct. I'd say there's things that, that exist that don't line up with my viewpoint, but I think it's the same with yours. As far as that stuff, I mean, I think there's an assumption that, that material has just been, sitting there in a constant, but it could be, and I feel silly even talking in a religious way, but, the fact is I believe this universe was created by something that's grand and beyond our comprehension. And not this stereotype vision of God in the Bible with the robe and stuff, but something, something mind-blowing. But, if this God created everything, then it's certainly reasonable to think he could create things that, already exist on a timeline as though they have some age to them.
So they would be created as if they had age?
Well, created so if God created things that are radioactive and, he created rocks that have some of these radioactive materials. Again, I guess this feels a little silly talking about in a way with, someone who's not believing what I'm believing, but, you're not going to make something that appears to be brand new, right? Like there's no conception there. Well, I mean, the Bible says God created Adam and Eve, who are human beings, but he didn't make babies, and just drop them on a planet.
Well, sure. So that would be an explanation. So the explanation as to why God wouldn't make, Adam and Eve as babies is because he didn't want to just drop babies on the planet. He wanted to drop adults on the planet that could, interact with him and worship him or whatever. So what's the explanation for why God would create the Earth, the rocks, as if they are older, to appear older than they are?
Well, I mean, if he made a fully functioning universe and a planet with fully formed trees and, plants and animals.
But why did the rocks need to be older than they seem to be? Or younger than they seem to be? Sorry, why do they need to appear older than they are? Like, again, you could make a complete justification and say, look, well, they needed to be in a garden, and gardens have trees, and so the trees need to be fully grown. So fine. Why did the rocks have to look like they've been through 4.5 billion years of decay?
Well, I mean, you're saying like there's an intent there, but they don't have to look like anything. Maybe there was.
Isn't there an intent? If this was created by a divine entity, then of course there was an intent.
Of course, there was an intent.
Yeah, that's the whole point. The whole point is that it was intentional. It was created. It wasn't just random. It was created. That's what it means to be created. That it was intentional.
I don't know. I feel like you're locking onto a detail that would be irrelevant. It'd be like
It's a super relevant detail, because
like, okay,
if
let's say God created Adam and Eve, and he already put some shit in their digestive systems. I don't know, for shits and giggles. Like, is there an intent to that, or
for shits and giggles? I mean, so look, the thing is if God is creating the world in a certain way that makes it look far older than it is without good reason, then that God is just being deceptive.
You're saying looks like it's older than it is.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Like the rocks look like they're older than they are according to your view.
I don't know. I feel like we're chasing down a topic that doesn't really have. I'm not sure how to explain what I'm thinking. I feel like you're kind of understanding where I'm coming from, but you might be kind of playing with me a little bit here.
No, I don't. I mean, like, the point is that anytime you do something, anytime you make something appear as if not as it should be, but as some other way, that might be construed as deception. Like, you can justify that, but you need a justification. Otherwise, you're just being deceptive.
You're saying because things appear as though they're more decayed than they are.
Yes.
And you could link time to that.
Yes.
I guess I'd never thought about that, to be honest.
I mean, it's something to think about. That is like, I mean, genuinely, the way we figured out how old the Earth was radiometric dating, specifically with uranium. That's how we figured it out back in, the 50s. So
how much time we believe the Earth has existed, not figured out.
Teach their own.
Okay, I think it's an honest way to look at it. Because, hey, man, look, here's a truth that you can't argue with. Science is littered with history of people knowing things to be fact until they're not fact. And people have died over that phenomena, and that's just part of the human condition, and you've seen this and you know this, and I think you would probably apply it to people on my side, people who are religious. And it's true. People generally accept things that they're taught when they're younger as fact. And I think that's the average person.
The kinds of people that are least likely to do that are scientists, right? Scientists tend to actually get a kick out of proving each other wrong. That's like, you get some accolades for doing that, right? You can win a Nobel Prize for that.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. There's a story in the 1800s, and I think his name was Ignaz Semmelweis or something wacky like that.
Oh, you're talking about the washing his hands guy. Yeah.
The washing his hands guy. People, he did the study, not a study, but he said he made everyone start washing their hands.
Yep.
The mortality
Everybody
rate
was against them. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then you know what ended up happening?
Said, we're not doing that. But my point is,
you know what happened? The scientific community adapted. You know what never changes? The religious account. The religious account never changes and never updates in light of new information.
Yeah, but right, the religious account in any religion is based on some text. So
the theistic account doesn't update, right?
No, but to say, we update the text because we found this thing, that's not really.
That's what you should do.
No, you should.
That's what someone intellectually honest should do.
No,
you should, in light of new information, you should update your beliefs.
Okay, update your beliefs, but to say, we're going to rewrite the Bible because
well, no, but that's the problem, right? The whole reason why science is trustworthy and reliable is because we know that in light of new information, it will update.
Dude, but look, so my example with Ignaz, he had everyone in the hospital start washing their hands. That death rate plummeted. No one wanted to do it. They found it inconvenient to do, and they pushed back. They said, "We're not doing this." I think he lost his job. I think his career was ruined. I could be wrong with that. And then the mortality rate, deaths just started skyrocketing. The point is, in light of evidence, people lock in on things, and they are so reluctant to accept new information. So you say science changes, and it does, but it takes people are so stubborn.
It takes some time, yeah. I mean, like it's better now than it was 200 years ago, right?
I don't know. I don't think.
I mean, it is just because like we have more rigorous tests for things.
I mean, our technology has changed, no doubt.
No, we have more rigorous tests for like the way that we determine if something is like if some statistical anomaly is statistically significant or if it's just a statistical error. We have more rigorous tests to determine what's actually the case and what's not. I mean, like look. 25 years ago, there was a discovery of dark energy, right? This was a whole big thing. Adam Rees and a few others won a Nobel Prize for this in the early 2000s. And literally the same guy, given new data that came out a few years ago, literally the same guy, Adam Rees, said, "Oh, we were probably wrong. It's not the kind of thing that we thought it was." The same guy. And that's based off of new evidence that came out like 2 years ago. And he's like, "Yeah, we were probably wrong." This is the guy that won a Nobel Prize for it, said that we were probably wrong.
That's pretty good. I feel like he's a minority to do that.
No, it's really not. That's pretty normal.
Wow. Huh. Doc, I'm gonna let you go. Gotta get off here, but thank you.
All right, Dan.
I enjoyed this. This has been good.
Thanks for being here, Dan. Take care.
Yeah, man, catch you. Bye.
All right, let's bring on a guest from YouTube. Hello. Hello, how's it going? Hello? 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 Did he give the prize back? No, there's not really a mechanism to give your prize back. Also, dark energy almost certainly still exists. They thought it was a cosmological constant, and they are now reconsidering. So it was the implication of the measurement. I mean, like the measurement still stands, like acceleration of the universe still stands.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, hello. Do you hear me? I'm sorry, my mic was not working.
No, you're fine. You're fine. How old are you?
I'm 19. How about
Okay, I'm 32. How old do you think the Earth is?
you said it was, I think, 4.5 billion years.
Yeah, approximately.
Yeah, I agree with your with the scientific fact that it's 4.5 billion years, but
Okay.
I'm here to
That's the topic. If you don't want to talk about the topic, I'm going to move on to the next guest. I'm sorry. All right, let's talk to MixMind. MixMind. MixMind, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right. How old do you think the Earth is?
Like 4.5 billion years.
Okay.
That's so.
Thanks for being here. Zabila, how's it going?
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How old do you think the Earth is?
Yeah, I know it's 4.5 billion years. Bye.
Okay, thanks for being here. Animal, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How old do you think the Earth is?
I think it could be 6,000 years old.
Okay. Why so?
Yeah, well, now the 6,000-year-old thing, when you say the church lied to you about science in 6,000 years, now the Bible doesn't explicitly say 6,000 years.
Right.
You know, there is reason
It's like
for...
a few, like maybe 6,000 to 8,000 or 6,000 to 12,000, depends on who you ask, right?
Yeah, so to piggyback off of what the previous guy was trying to explain, now I think he went a little bit off the rails, but I think what he was trying to say is like, if God were to create the world, by the way, are you like an atheist?
Yeah, but it's not really relevant to the conversation.
It is, but anyway, so if God were to create the universe and the world and the reality that we live in, and he wanted to have, say, like oil on the earth, like fossil fuel, right? To have that be on the earth, there would have to be a history that is built into the creation, sort of like if somebody were to like program a video game to have like trees, oil, things like that. There has to be a history or a lore behind that isn't, explicitly seen, within that world.
So, I mean, have you ever played the game Factorio?
No.
Okay, so Factorio it's a game where you build a factory. It's really good for people with it's really good for people who can name all of the actors of Lord of the Rings, let's say. Anyway, so in that game, there's oil in various places. There's fish in various places. The only life forms on the planet are bugs and fish. You land on a planet and you build a factory there. That's the premise. And then there's oil and there's uranium and there's all of these things. No explanation is given as to why any of those things are there.
Okay.
Why do you need to give an explanation?
I want to ask you if we have oil on the earth, right? And it's true that God created the earth 6,000 years ago. Could a power outside of what we understand, what we can measure from science, create oil 6,000 years ago?
Yeah, sure.
Sure,
if God
right?
is real, if God is real, I don't see why God couldn't do that. Yeah.
Okay, so exactly. So if God can create a fossil fuel, for a fossil fuel to exist, there has to be that history behind it.
Why couldn't he just create it as it is? Why does he need to attach a history?
Because the world that he created falls within the rules that this world has, the rules of physics, the rules of, for oil to be there has to have been something has to die and it has to go
that's how it gets there. That's not required for it to be there, right? Like God could have just put it there with no history, just put it there.
Well, what we see around the world, if God does exist and he created the world that we live in, that's the rules of the world that he's created. So I don't see, besides miracles of Jesus and, like miraculous things like that, we don't see anything else that's created in the world that's been created that way. Everything is created with a history.
Yeah. So except the cases where miraculous things do happen, there are no miracles, is what you're telling me?
No, that's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that the way that the earth's been created is, what you see around you. So if God was real and that's the way that he creates things, he could have created that. He could have created the world, because the way they do the genealogy, the 6,000 years ago, right? The young earth creationists, right? They trace the genealogy as it stated in Genesis, and they say, okay, the earth is about 6,000 years old, 6 to 12, whatever.
Sure.
Right? Okay, now if God were to have started the genealogy from Adam and Eve onward 6,000 years ago, he could have created the earth with the backstory, but his story starts 6,000 years ago. Just as the example I brought up earlier of, say, like a video game that's created, but it has lore behind it and history behind it. Right?
I just don't understand why it needs that. Why it needs the lore behind it.
For life to exist as it is today, there has to be that history behind it for us to dig up the fossil fuels, for us to, have.
Well, no, he could have just put the fossil fuels there.
But
he doesn't need to give a history. It doesn't. That doesn't allow.
That's not the way.
Why would he do that?
That's not the way he behaves, though. That's not the way that.
So it sounds like what you're suggesting is that God made the world exactly as if it were 4.5 billion years old. It's just not.
Could have.
Is that roughly what you're saying?
I mean, just to play devil's advocate with you, yes. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. I'm saying that
devil's
if God...
Wait, so what do you believe?
Well, I'm a creationist, for sure.
So how is it devil's advocate?
Well, I'm not stating it explicitly. I'm not sure if the Earth is 6,000 years old. I'm not saying it has to be 6,000 years old. It could be 12,000 years old. It could be 8,000
Right. No,
years
but what you do believe is that he created the Earth exactly as if it were 4.5 billion years old.
He could have.
Do we
Right?
agree
God
that
exists, it's
wait,
possible.
so do you think that that's what did happen?
I'm saying if God exists, then it is possible for that to happen.
I'm asking what you think did happen.
Okay, yes, it did happen.
Okay. So he created the world as exactly as if it was 4.5 billion years old, but it's not. 6 to 12,000 years old, or whatever it might be. Now,
yeah.
What would be say the goal of creating a world where, I don't know, uranium has already decayed, like half of the uranium-238 has already decayed into lead? What's the goal of that?
The goal of uranium turning it, well, the Bible and, God's purpose is, revolves around humanity and, our beliefs and the way we behave and, being good people. So I don't think that's very relevant to the story of, why God created things. I don't think that's relevant.
I mean, if your view is that everything he did is intentional, which I imagine it is, right? Then there must be some explanation as to why it's that way rather than some other way.
Uranium?
Some intent.
I mean, I don't see why this specific case that you're bringing up is relevant to the conversation. I mean, the real conversation you're getting at is, conversation about creationism. And I'm just wondering, like, if the world, not the world, but our reality wasn't created, what do you think happened?
I think our Earth formed naturally via gravitational accretion.
Okay, but what about our existence as a whole? Like
life or like the universe? I don't think that there ever was nothing. I don't think there ever was nothing, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, so the universe has always existed.
Or that there was a timeless existence that gave way to a timeful existence. Either way. But look, the reason why I asked the question I did, rather than pivoting away from it, is because we have a basically built-in clock of when things formed. In particular, zircon crystals. It's a type of crystal you can find in the ground. Zircon crystals have a built-in clock because when they form, they only allow uranium into their crystal matrix. They don't allow lead into their crystal matrix. So that's just the chemistry of zircon crystals, right? And so when you go and you find a zircon crystal, when they solidify, there can be no lead in them. Uranium, there can be, like, if there's impurities. Usually there's not uranium, but, there can be uranium impurities, no problem. So when the crystal forms, when it solidifies, there's no lead, there might be uranium. And then when we go and we look in zircon crystals that we find in the ground, we find that there's some lead and some uranium. And we find that the lead that is in the zircon crystals is exactly the kind of lead that comes via uranium decay. Uranium, through a fairly long chain, decays into lead. And so the conclusion that we can come to, the reasonable conclusion that we can come to, is that that lead started out as uranium, right? It started out as uranium and then it decayed. Sure. And we have a clock. And that gives us a clock because we know how long it takes for uranium to decay. So the question then is, why is it that God would put a clock on the Earth, he would put a stopwatch on the Earth that started out with 4.5 billion years having already passed?
To get to the reality that we have today,
Why is that necessary for us to live in the world that we live in?
Because the civilization that we have today, runs on fossil fuels.
It has nothing to do with uranium decay.
Well, just that discovery itself, we don't know why God would have wanted to have that discovery until science furthers itself. I think that science is the discovery of God's creation. And, obviously, as you, I would assume, believe that, science doesn't know everything, right? We're still learning things every day, when it comes to science. But, something specifically like that, I don't think either of us really have an answer on that specific question. But to go back to what you said, you think the universe always existed. Where did
before we pivot to that
come from?
Before we pivot to that, and I'm happy to talk about that at some point, but it looks like you're just saying, well, we don't know why God did this seemingly deceptive thing, but we'll find out eventually, I promise. Well, I mean, it is.
Why is that deceptive? Uranium?
Yeah, because the fact, so you can think of it as him literally putting a stopwatch that we go and imagine that you were walking on the beach and you found a stopwatch, and on that stopwatch it said 2 years on it, You would think that somebody started that stopwatch 2 years ago, not that it was just spontaneously built having read 2 years already. That's the deception, that he put something there. He put the stopwatch there that says 4.5 billion years old, even though the world hasn't been running for that long.
I don't see why this is relevant, because if I write a book and I write that there's a, somebody died 10 years ago, but that person never actually, existed within my story.
Books are generally fiction, but I mean, the point is you would add that to your story.
Books aren't generally fiction. You have nonfiction books, but
when you're talking about somebody that doesn't exist,
the reason why I'm bringing this up is because if I'm a creator, just as God is a creator, I can create things the way I want. And
you can, and that require all sorts of creation require intent, right? So when you're an author and you include, like, oh, my parents, they died, like your main character's parents died 15 years before the events of the book, whatever. The reason you include that is for some reason that comes up in the book. But you're saying, we just don't know what the reason is. Is it known to anybody?
Does science know the reason why that is?
Well, yeah, because the Earth is actually 4.5 billion years old.
Okay, but what does that have to do with what I'm, creation as a whole?
Look, so what you're saying is that, well, we don't know why God is deceiving us, why God added this extra detail that doesn't have any explanation. Unless there is some explanation, then yeah, it is deceptive.
That doesn't make much sense to me, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, you could say the Bible as a whole is deceptive. You could say that morality.
Well, yeah, but that's a separate conversation.
Do things. Okay, I mean, I'd like to, move on to something different. I'd like to go back to
the sure, we can pivot. That's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to the point of, you were saying that the universe has always existed. I would assume you mean that matter has always existed. As we know, matter can't be created or destroyed, within our current laws of physics, right? So
well, it can, but that's we can let that slide. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so how do you say that matter was created, or that time was created?
I'm not saying that matter ever was created. My view is consistent with there never being nothing. So if there was never nothing, then nothing was ever created. It just always was.
So then our Earth is more than. So then you're putting a.
No, the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. I'm talking about the universe.
Existed. Okay, so the universe has always existed, but you're putting a time on the creation of the universe.
No, I'm putting a time on how old the Earth is. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. The universe may well not have an age. It may not have a well-defined age.
So it just always existed. Then what about the Big Bang?
The Big Bang is the event that gave us to the current that got us to the current phase of our universe's existence.
Okay, and before that?
Who knows? I mean, like I could speculate, but I'm not gonna. I could speculate, but I'm not gonna like I could speculate for you if you want, but yeah, I mean, it seems like philosophically,
I don't know.
It seems philosophically inconsistent to say that nothing existed, right?
Right.
So if nothing can't exist, then something must have always existed.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
If nothing can't exist, then something must have always existed.
Why can't nothing exist?
Well, then you would have something with no properties having the property of existence.
Well, you agree that this universe that we live in was at one point formed. So before that, the universe didn't exist. So then in that
I don't know what you mean by it formed. Like, I think that the universe took a different form. I don't think the Big Bang was like the creation of our universe. I think it was an event that took place in our universe's history.
So what was the universe before the Big Bang then?
In a different state.
And what was that state?
We don't know. We don't have enough evidence to come to a definitive conclusion. I could speculate if you want.
So we don't know.
If you want, I can speculate.
So there was something,
there's just not enough evidence.
Know what it was, and then it turned into the universe from.
Well, it would have been the universe before as well. It wouldn't turn into the universe.
Okay, I don't. All right, let's move on to something different because we're not getting anywhere.
Okay, I mean, you brought it up.
Yeah, because you don't have an answer to it, which is fine because nobody has an answer to it, and that was kind of my reason for bringing it up, and that's why I, believe in creationism because I don't have.
But we do have an answer to how old the Earth is, right? That we do have an answer to. Like we can just study that scientifically.
Sure. Yeah. Agreed. And then I wanted to ask you one other thing. So
yeah, sure, go ahead.
and then I'll let somebody else share.
Sure.
I have a question about life on the
okay.
Earth. How do you think that life came to be on the Earth?
I suspect that it was via a complex chemical process.
It's called abiogenesis, right? So.
Well, that's the name. That's the name for the phenomenon of life arising from non-living organic matter. Yeah.
Life arising from non-life, right? So. Now, how come we haven't been able to replicate that?
Because we've only really been trying for like 70 years.
So, this is my understanding, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. So, you have a random scientific chemical occurrence that happens on the Earth, however long ago, right? So, a random occurrence. We can't define it, we can't figure out what it is, and we can't replicate it with all of our modern technology, where we can practically do anything, replicate any scientific phenomenon, but we can't replicate what I would assume would be the easiest thing, and that's creating life from a chemical.
Oh, no, so you're kind of mistaken, right? So a lot of the steps have been replicated, right? So we know how nucleotides can form. Amino acids can form. We know how amino acids can form from the primordial soup. We know how protocells can form. These are like things with cell walls, so you have an inside and an outside. In fact, and I could go pull this up if I'm remembering correctly. In fact, even self-replicating chemical processes have happened. We just haven't figured out how to make them all happen at the same time. But this is absolutely like it's pretty well known like how like the steps how this would have happened. It just hasn't been replicated in full given the conditions because there's still some steps that are missing.
What steps are missing?
For example, like putting it all together. I think that there's also a step of how you get the self-replicating chemical process to happen inside the cells. I don't think that that's been done. Like we've developed cells, we've developed the self-replicating chemical process. I don't think that we've gotten them to happen at both in the same, like one inside the other. But yeah, I mean, like this has been like, there's a lot of progress that's been made since the 50s with the Urey-Miller experiment.
Okay, but we still haven't replicated it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've replicated a lot of the steps, but we haven't done the whole thing yet. Yeah, but like, I mean, consider this: we haven't replicated the interior of the sun yet either. But that doesn't mean that we never will.
Like that's very different. I mean, you're talking about the sun, and then you're talking about something that is,
That doesn't mean that the interior of the sun is magic, just because we haven't replicated it yet.
No, but that's wildly different.
How is it different? You're saying, well, we haven't done it yet.
We're talking about,
Therefore, a god must have done it.
We can't replicate a single cell organism on Earth. We can't create a single cell.
And
organism.
That's more complicated. Like if you just look at like the number of stuff, because what's going on in the sun is fairly simple. It's high pressure, hydrogen, and that's all.
You're the one that brought up the sun, though.
But anyway. What I'm saying is that there's something even less complicated that we haven't replicated yet. And that's just because the tech's not there. We don't know how to do it yet.
Okay, so we don't know how reality or our existence was created. Prior to the Big Bang. We don't know anything there. We don't know how life has come from.
Hold on, I didn't say we didn't know anything.
Well, we at least can't we can theorize.
Then why? So I never said we don't know anything. I don't know why you said that we don't know anything.
I didn't say that.
Do you want me to replay the audio? Because you just said we don't know anything. Those were your words. About what happened before the Big Bang. I didn't say we didn't know anything. Here. What I'm saying is just look at the number of hydrogen. Okay.
All right. Anyway, so what do we know then?
We know, for example, that at least the mainstream view is that there was something called inflation that happened. Inflation was a very, very rapid expansion before the hot Big Bang. And I can go into the details of what this is. It involves an inflaton field and slow roll, and there's a whole bunch of details there. That is the mainstream scientific view. Now, what caused that? Who knows? But that doesn't mean that we don't know anything. We also know what it wasn't, right? Like we can rule out various theories by looking at the data that we have. So that doesn't. That means that we don't know. That means that we do know something. We just don't know definitively.
Okay. I don't. Do you have a theory that you say disproves a creator, or You just go based on like.
I go based off of what the scientific data says. The scientific data says that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, that the universe it's been about 13.8 billion years since the Big Bang or so. That's what the scientific, like all of the scientific data basically converges on those two values.
Right, which I don't think disproves, we can both agree that doesn't disprove creation.
It disproves young Earth creation.
Sure.
And that's the claim here.
Not exactly, because, you know, like we explained before, if I was a creator and I wanted to create something to have history behind it, 6,000 years ago, I could if I wanted to.
You could also, under that view, is there any way to tell that the universe is not just a week old?
Well, I've been living on it for more than a week.
How do you know your memories weren't fabricated? You were created with a history.
At that point, honestly, I don't know. And
okay,
that's a
so
mystery
that's the problem. That's the problem with the view, that your view is consistent with thinking that the universe is a week old.
You can't disprove it.
I mean, if we agree it's consistent with that, which I think is, I think that is a reductio. Like I think that reduces your view to absurdity. If you're saying, well, you can't disprove that the universe is a week old, well, then you'd be reasonable in calling me ridiculous.
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's ridiculous to say that life was created by non-life when we can't, you know.
I'm sorry. Do you think that God is living? In like the biological sense?
Well, I think that God exists outside of our universe.
So then you think that that life was created by non-life?
No, I think God created life.
Yeah, is God living?
Sure, God could be living outside.
I'm sorry,
of
God is made of cells?
Could be, why not?
Oh, okay. God is made of cells. Then where did God's cells come from?
Well, God exists beyond our reality, so we would have no way of comprehending how God exists, and that's kind of a point of God in a sense.
So your point is, so you hold a view, not based on any evidence, but rather you hold a view that the evidence is not pointing to the way the universe is based on uncertainty. And I hold a view based on the data, and then I remain uncertain on the things that we don't have data on. So it seems like that our views aren't symmetrical. Our views are not the same. We both recognize that there's uncertainty, but my views have uncertainty beyond where the data stands. Your uncertainty is right from the beginning.
I don't understand what you're getting at.
What I'm saying is, look, we both have uncertainty in our view. I don't know what caused the Big Bang to bang, right? I don't know the exact mechanism by which life formed. Sure. You, on the other hand, don't know how God created life, right? You don't know if God is life, or if God created life from non-life. You don't know why God made the Earth appear older. The point, but the distinction between our views, yes, we both have uncertainty. The distinction between our views is that the things that I do claim to believe, I have evidence to back it up. The things that you claim to believe.
I have evidence to back up my beliefs.
What's the evidence to back up the belief that the Earth is younger than 1 million years old?
Well, my evidence to believe in the Bible is that I read the Old Testament. The Old Testament prophesizes Jesus Christ. He comes and fulfills.
Does it say in the Bible that the Earth is less than 1 million years old?
No, not explicitly. No, it doesn't. Like I stated earlier,
believe
it explains the genealogy. It explains genealogy of humans from Adam and Eve forward, right?
Right, but how do you know that that was the beginning of the Earth?
I don't know that.
So why do you believe it?
Why do I believe what?
That was the beginning of the Earth.
I don't think
the beginning of the Earth happened around that time.
Like I said, I think that the story could start there, but God could have made the Earth older. I don't think if God exists, I don't think that's a fallacy.
So when you say older, you mean that he created it before that and just let it be for 4.5 billion years?
I think he could have created it in one swoop right there.
Right, no, but why do you think that? Why do you think that it's actually 6,000 years old and that's not just when the human story started?
Like I said, I think that if God wants to create something, he can create something with a history.
You're not explaining why you believe something. You're trying to provide justification for your beliefs. I'm asking why you believe it in the first place.
I just believe in creationism, and that's why I wanted to...
How does that get you to less than 1 million years old?
I don't think... I think that science proves that the Earth, the Earth has an age in which we can measure of whatever you think that science says, right? But that doesn't mean that the reality has to be that the Earth wasn't created, or that our reality wasn't created at a point sooner than that, or more recent than that.
Right, but you're not just saying, oh, well, you know, maybe the universe is younger and it was just created this way. You're not saying that. You're saying, oh, the universe is younger than that. Why? Why aren't you just agnostic?
Why am I not agnostic?
Agnostic about the age of the Earth.
Oh, agnostic about the age of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I honestly am more agnostic about the age of the Earth. I wanted to.
Did you lie to me?
I'm not lying to you.
I asked you how old you think the Earth was at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you if you think it's less than 1 million years old, and you said yes.
Well, I think the question you're asking is just, I think it's more to get, more uneducated Christians in here so you can, do your little thing. But I just wanted to talk on more of a creationist.
So you lied to me.
No, I think it very well could be 6,000 years old.
It could be. Do you actually believe that it is?
I think I could believe it's 6,000 years old.
Lying's a sin.
I mean, yeah, it is.
All right. Thanks for being here, Animal Edits.
All right.
Go on, all right, let's talk to Razadaz. Razadaz, how's it going? All right, I don't know why Razadaz's mic is still muted.
Hello?
Hello, Razadaz. How's it going?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah,
how old
can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay, though. How old do you think the Earth is?
That I don't know, because the Bible doesn't make any claim to it.
Okay, thanks for being here. All right, let's talk to Baltachi. Baltachi. Oh, I need to add you to scene too. Baltachi, how's it going? Baltachi.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? Hello. Baltachi. Baltachi. All right, it seems like he's having an issue, so we'll bring up a guest from TikTok. Oh, we should look at Super Chats, because we have some Super Chats. By the way, if you guys want to support me, Super Chats are a good way to get your message recognized. Also, of course, Cash App is great because they don't take any percentage. So from Flanker with the $5, we have, is it more likely that the universe was created to look old, or that it just is old? Look at the bending they have to do to match the worldview. Yeah, so that's the point, right? Like, you could say, yeah, the universe was created to look old. But if you do that, then you may as well say the universe was created to look old and it's actually only a week old, right? And then again from Flanker with the $5, how is Guest any different from people saying Zeus or Thor did lightning before we knew what it was? Doesn't he see he's doing the same thing? No, of course he doesn't. Have I got a PayPal? No, but I probably should. I probably should get a PayPal set up at some point. It's just currently, I have one PayPal, but it has like my actual name on it, and I don't want that linked. So anyway, we have from Ski Walker, we have $5. Will you please read aloud 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4, then right after read Exodus 23-5. Paul is calling Adonai the Antichrist, son of destruction. Not today. That's probably better suited for Justin's live. Aaron with the $10. Thank you so much. Blitz, quote, I haven't studied it, but I know better than you because this one apologetics website said. Yeah, that is often how it goes, yeah. And then Grimlock with the $10 says, hydration? I did, but thank you so much. I'll do it again. All right. It said Ski Walker, not Skinwalker, by the way. I misspoke, I think. All right. Let us bring up... This guy looks wild. Theory of Gravity. How's it going, Theory of Gravity? Theory of Gravity? Theory of Gravity? Theory of Gravity? You're unmuted. All right. Let's bring up Baltachi again. Baltachi, can you hear me? You're muted right now.
Hello, sir.
Howdy, how's it going?
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Pretty good.
So, how old do you think the
First
Earth is?
time actually seeing your show and first time calling in.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that I made it to your feed. But I do have to ask, how old do you think the Earth is?
Well, I am inclined to agree with you that it is older than 6,000 years old, but I don't see where in the Bible it explicitly says the age of the Earth.
It doesn't.
So
yet some people still believe it. But thanks for being here, Baltachi. Look, I understand that it doesn't say this explicitly in the Bible. Absolutely, I understand it. The point is that some people believe it, and they infer it, perhaps, from the Bible. I absolutely understand that. I'm not making the claim that it says that anywhere. I want to talk to the people who believe it, not the people who... Shadid, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Great. How old do you think the Earth is?
I truly don't know. But I'm kind of in the same boat as the. I believe the Earth was created, but I believe that that's a conflation that that the Earth is 6,000 years old or whatever. I think they might have made man 6,000 years ago, or whatever.
Okay, but that's also not true, right?
Right. No, but this is the conflation, though, right?
So we agree man wasn't created 6,000 years ago either?
Well, I mean, that's just whatever this guy, I forgot his name, a guy in the 1600s said that he calculated up everything from the Bible, and he thought it was about 6,000 years old.
Yeah,
But,
so what, look, the topic is about the age of the Earth. It's about young Earth creationism. If you don't believe that, you're not here for the right topic.
okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fair, right? I just don't believe that. I believe people get it wrong, right? I feel like
I agree. Lots of people get it wrong.
right, and I don't think that it just immediately means that God isn't real.
I don't think that it does either.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. I just wanted to see where your head was at with that. I was
Thanks for being here,
anybody else
Shadid.
specifically say that. Yeah.
There are other reasons why I don't think God is real. It has nothing to do with someone thinking that the Earth is 6,000 years old. Those are unrelated. Richard, how's it going? Richard! I was hoping that would wake him up. All right, well, we'll let the old man sleep. Howdy, how's it going?
Good, you?
I'm doing all right. How old do you think the Earth is?
I mean, even our current science projects can't relate the beginning of the numbers.
What?
Wait.
Even our current science can't really the beginning of numbers?
Can't get the correct number. When was the Earth created?
We have pretty good number. We have within 1%.
But like every history can be manipulated to.
We're not talking about history. We're not talking about history. We're talking about physics, really.
It might be older.
Okay, howdy. Thanks for being here. Hopefully we'll get one more guest, because it is about time for me to end the live, but I do want to take on one more. Chris, how's it going?
Good, you?
I'm doing all right. How old do you think the Earth is?
6,000 years old, but can I just ask you a question before we get started?
Is it related to the topic?
No, but it'll be quick.
What is it? I guess, yeah.
What do you think about the theory that the universe started from a black hole? Because, both of them got a singularity.
I don't think it's true.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask that question. I don't actually believe it. Sorry.
I should block him. I should block him. All right, y'all. Okay, let's talk to Anderson Hill. Maybe. One sec. Let me take care of something really quick. Anderson, can you hear me? Anderson? 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 Anderson, you're here. All right. I think that we will just end the live then. All right, y'all. Sorry for the anticlimactic ending, but we'll end the live there. I think that we did pretty well on this topic. I think it was generally pretty productive. I think we got some good conversations going. I'm going to try doing the thing where I start adding or uploading. Thank you for the meteor shower, Diaper Horse. I'm going to start uploading individual debates on YouTube, see how that does. I don't know if I should be uploading those to a separate channel. I might do that. We'll think about it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for Ask a Physicist. Let's end the live stream.